Right, welcome to the podcast again, Chris.
Thank
you. Olly for the first time. We're going to start off by talking about the England squad, who Gareth Southgate has picked, who he hasn't picked. Is there any shockers in there for you two that you're surprised that are in there?
Easy. Calvin Phillips,
Yeah.
Maguire.
But with Maguire, he always plays well for England, doesn't he?
Doesn't matter, I don't think. If you're not playing for your club, you shouldn't play for your country.
I agree with that, to be fair.
Yeah, it's been talked about, hasn't it? Gareth loves him. He does that loyalty thing, doesn't he? He does it with Jordan Pickford as well. I think at times when he's off form, he does it too with him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Starts every time.
Same with Calvin Phillips.
Yeah.
And there's also question marks as well, I think, over Jordan Henderson. I know he's only moved to Saudi, but, I mean, the level of the league he's playing in over there, is that going to keep him in shape to be in the England squad?
See, I think Henderson maybe just because of his experience and he is still playing. I think that swings it that way. We ain't got much depth in the middle.
A year later, Henderson won't be in that squad.
No.
Yeah. And I think he's just made it. I like Henderson. I think a year ago he's one of the first names on the team sheet for England, for me.
Yeah, I mean, do you think he takes people like Henderson at the moment for experience to bed in the
definitely.
young ones more than he did? I mean, I remember one time, for example, they took Beckham along because purely for motivation and for experience, and I think probably the same.
I mean, if you look at the other midfielders, you've got Calvin Phillips, who shouldn't be in it. Conor Gallagher's inexperienced. Trent Alexander-Arnold has just become a centre mid, although I rate him. Declan Rice, Bellingham are really the only two worth talking about that you feel safe with. But that might be why he's taken Henderson.
But then you can pull your forwards. I mean, you've got Maddison there, who arguably can play in midfield on a wing or something like that.
Yeah.
So he can double. He's not. When we say forwards, he's not necessarily a striker, is he?
But you talk about experience. If you look at the team, the players they got anyway, got Pickford. He's been to 2 World Cups, multiple Champions League winners with the Chelsea guys, with the Liverpool players.
I think you meant
Harry
experience
Kane's
in midfield.
Right. I see. No, I mean, just generally. I thought generally. I mean, I think you've got players there that are very new, as we know, to an England setup, and you need that guidance, don't you?
Who are you surprised didn't get picked? I think the obvious one is Jordan Bowen from West Ham.
Wow.
I wouldn't pick Ward-Prowse. He's had two or three good games for West Ham.
Yeah,
you can't pick him for England based off 3 games.
Yeah, but the stats he got last year, he gets assists, gets goals. I know it's set pieces and it's an extra midfielder in there. Would you take Ward-Prowse or would you take Calvin Phillips sat on the bench for a year? That's
a good point.
That's the question you want to ask.
I mean, Phillips is clearly just sat there as a backup for a defensive sort of midfielder, isn't he? If you take him out and put in Ward-Prowse, then arguably you've got 2 very much of the same types of player in Maddison and him.
And to be honest with you as well, like, if he's looking at playing, Declan Rice is going to be the main, anchor in midfield. If he's not fit, if he's injured, who's the next best English, number 6?
Probably play Henderson.
Yeah, I was going to say Henderson.
Henderson, yeah. Not Calvin Phillips.
Well, Henderson's
as a holding mid.
I'd say Henderson's another one for England. He's always a 7 out of 10. Like he's never a standout game, but he's always consistently there. You wouldn't not have him.
Depends on how Southgate views him as a player, though. Is he more box to box, or is he someone that's going to sit back?
I don't think it's to do with being a player. I think it's like professionalism. Same with Klopp. That's why he kept Henderson around for the squads. Players like that, obviously you want the experience on the international duty. There's a lot of players that are relatively new to it. But I think that's through Southgate too scared to change the squad, and it's getting to a point he's got to start bringing younger players through. Otherwise,
he's brought Eddie in, which I'm happy about.
I was just going to say to you, apart from Eddie Nketiah, and Callum Wilson, apart from Harry Kane, of course, a lot of those forwards are, again, wide players, aren't they? And if you look at the midfielders, you'd argue that 3 or 4 of those are more defensively minded players than attacking players. So, really, the way they've bracketed the squad, you could arguably put 3 or 4, your Maddisons, your Sakas, your Grealishes, Fodens, into midfield wide areas.
Yeah.
They're not actual forward, but they are forward players because they score goals, of course. But maybe when you look at it up top, the striker in the box, finishing it off, for me there, it's Nketiah and Kane.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're light there.
Yeah.
Sterling's another one I'm surprised about that's not in the squad. When you look at the squad in terms of Southgate always picks more experienced, consistent, like
players that he knows.
Players, I'm shocked he hasn't picked, especially Sterling's start with Chelsea. I think he's been quite one of the most dangerous players.
What do you think, Carl?
He started well, and to be honest with you, he's been our standout performer in the first 4 games. But I think this squad is based over a longer period of time than the last 4 games. They've looked probably to tail end of last season during pre-season here and there. So I understand why he's not in it.
And as we said, the Southgate loyalty factor comes again, doesn't it? Because you take one of his, your loyalty out to someone like Henderson or whatever, and you've got to fill the place. So there's no. Oh, Maguire was our example. Sorry. But,
do you think it's a little bit, talking to goalkeepers now? Do you think it's a little bit harsh dropping Pope?
I don't think there's any surprise in there for me personally. I think
that's Pope over Sam
Johnston, isn't it? Yeah, that's the argument. Ramsdale's been good, solid. Okay, maybe not the best start this season, but go back as we just said over the past. You've got 2 reliable goalkeepers there, I think.
But then, like Colin said, if it's based off going from last year, Newcastle were the best defensive side in the Premier League. So you'd take Nick Pope in a heartbeat, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I'm surprised he's not in there over Sam Johnston.
Here's a question for you guys as well. So, in the qualifiers, in the next few games, and maybe looking towards the next tournament, who would you put down as number 1, Pickford or Ramsdale?
Pickford for England.
Yeah.
He's one of those that's just always played well, hasn't he, in an England shirt? And he's had some absolute shockers in Everton stuff.
Exactly.
And then he's come on a week later at times and played an absolute blind.
The last 2 weeks, the saves he's made. But obviously I love Ramsdale, but he is a bit shaky. It's not a coincidence that we signed Raya from Brentford. He has been a bit shaky, and Pickford is just one of them players that's good for England.
But the same could be said for Maguire, though, as well.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I would pick Maguire for England. As much as he doesn't play for United, you cannot fault Maguire for England.
I think the reason you don't pick Maguire is because he turned down West Ham move on base money. If you turn it down move to play football, you're not wanted in that United side. You should just go. If you want to play for your country, you should be playing.
Yeah.
Same with Phillips. If you wouldn't want to be in the side if you're not playing. Like players that are playing, Ward-Prowse, Sterling, Bowen, they're looking at that thinking, how am I going to get into that team? It picks itself every time, every tournament, every fixture. You ain't going to want to play.
Rio Ferdinand said, didn't he? Like if he was James Ward-Prowse, you'd be looking at retiring because you'd be like, what do I need to do to get in that team? You've got players like Calvin
Sterling.
Phillips.
He said that about.
Was it Sterling?
Sure, yeah, it's Sterling.
Ward-Prowse, Sterling. I think there's a few of them was aimed at, but it's true. Would you want if you're coming in, especially start of the season,
Calvin Phillips and Maguire are getting in the team and they're not playing?
It's a problem that Brazil have had for many, many years. You look at some of the players that we've seen that don't get in a Brazil team that start over the years. I mean, they're a wealth of talent, particularly up front.
Yeah,
and
I mean, Richarlison starts over Gabriel Jesus, but he does back it. Richarlison is quality for Brazil.
Yeah, but Brazil are usually playing against defences that aren't Premier League quality.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to your goalkeeper, I mean, you're saying about Ramsdale. Do you think that he started shaky because he's now under big pressure?
No.
Before he was number 1.
I might be looking too far into this, but I was watching in pre-season. We played United in America, and I stayed up and watched it. And 20 minutes into that game, every goal kick he took went out for a throw. And I thought, he's looking really shaky here. Then United scored and it was a daisy cutter along the floor and it went under him. And I thought, that just sums his performance up so far. Then he started the season off badly. Then it comes out about his wife having a miscarriage, didn't it? Do you know about that?
Yeah.
Do you know about that?
I didn't, no.
So I think, from what I read, partly through last season, like 3/4 of the way through, he went on holiday. I don't know when he would have had the chance to do that. I might have this wrong. But he went on holiday at some point, and on the flight back, his wife had a miscarriage on the plane. And it seems like since that point, that was when you look back, he's been shaky since that point. So maybe that is playing a part because they're not robots. They're humans.
They're humans. The last thing he needs then is for the club to go and sign a top goalkeeper where he thinks, hang on a minute, but then he said Arteta supported him so much. He said to him, even though we were looking at winning the league at that point, this happened, we were favourites probably. Arteta rang him up and went, do you want more time off? Like, I'll support you, even though we're looking at winning the league. Family's more important, so he was quite supportive. But then he goes and buys a goalkeeper, so it's a bit...
But last season, he did seem shaky over the whole course of the season.
No, I think towards the end he did.
I think with him as well, you was on like a massive high, every game, win.
Yeah.
And like, you're blinded by the mistake because you're still winning games.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is his passion. Like, once you see a player like that, he's like everything for the team. You've got them goggles on, you think, oh my word, what a player, and you sort of like overlook it. Same United with De Gea, when they was getting results, winning games, winning tournaments, they always overlooked the shakiness.
Yeah.
Now they've gone on a bad run. I mean, he's still got Golden Glove, still ain't got a club now.
Yeah.
And then that's looking stupid.
What's the long-term plan then with Raya, do you think? Do you think he comes number one or not?
I think he eventually will. Not straight away. I think it will take a while, but I think he will. I really do.
He's only on a loan though, isn't he?
Is it not what's the word? When you have to buy him at the end?
Obligation.
Obligation to buy, is it? Or is it option to buy? It's obligation, isn't it?
So then you see them selling Ramsdale on?
No, actually, you're right. I'm pretty sure it was option to buy, because financial fair play, I think it has to be an option instead of an obligation.
Right.
Because Raya also signed a 2-year extension at Brentford to cover him if you don't pay him at the end.
Right.
So they still get money for him. That's how it will work.
And I've just read today as well that they have given us permission, because we got him in the Carabao Cup, didn't we, Carabao Cup draw. They've given us permission to let him play against them.
But I think that's the week. That's the week when I think Ramsdale starts coming outside. When you start getting Champions League, Carabao Cup, I think that's when Raya starts playing in your rotation starts to...
I think Ramsdale will be Premier League, Champions League, and Raya will be FA Cup, Carling Cup, or Carabao Cup, whatever you want to call it.
But I think Mick Richards said it. You don't buy a second goalkeeper. Like
you said the last time that was done, it was Kudachini and Czech at the same time.
No, more recent than that. It was back at
De Gea, Victor Valdez.
Yeah.
No, is it EK Casillas?
It was Casillas and Navas, I think it was, wasn't it?
Navas,
yeah. So Casillas played Champions League and Cup games, and Navas done the league games.
I know we're straying off England,
usually
but they've got West Ham. They've got two top. They've got Fabianski, but you'd argue he's half decent. He's their cup goalkeeper, and Areola is doing blinding in the league.
If Ramsdale and Raya are happy with that setup, then it's good for Arsenal having two quality goalies.
You wouldn't be happy if you're mid-20s in the peak playing. Like Raya's come off a great season at Brentford, and Ramsdale's just come second in the league with Arsenal. Could go further this year. And you're both sitting there. None of you want to be on the bench. And I think
any footballer wants to play. He's now come to Arsenal knowing that he's not, unless he's been given assurances we don't know about.
Yeah,
I think Ramsdale goes end of season.
Oh, I don't know. We'll see. There's obviously a long way to go. I think this was more of because he started looking shaky at the end of the season. I think Arteta has made a bold move, brought in a very good goalkeeper, basically to say to Ramsdale, look, you cannot afford to fuck up this year. You've done it last year. We let it slide. You cannot be doing that this year.
But at the same time, how much pressure does that put you under?
Well, as a player, you need to be under pressure.
He wants to raise the level in training. Who was the backup before he arrived?
Turner that we sold to Nottingham Forest.
So basically, you haven't got one now apart from Ryan.
Yeah.
So that level with those two in goalkeeper training is going to be push, isn't it?
But the beauty of it, going back to what you mentioned earlier, it's only potentially an option to buy. So the gamble doesn't pay off. If Ramsdale picks up form, he can go back to Brentford and get a big move.
A gentleman's agreement, or one of them where you expect it to happen at the end.
We'll see. On to Chelsea. I know you wanted to talk about this, Olly. Let's get us going about that list of... so Ted Bowley has now spent over $1 billion since he's taken over Chelsea.
Ted Bowley.
I think.
What did I say?
Ted Bowley.
Todd Bowley. I'm thinking of Ted Lasso. Yeah. I am watching Ted Lasso at the moment. That's why.
Very good.
Todd Bowley has spent over $1 billion. At that list, looking at the list, how many players would you take?
3 players.
But out of that list, I bet you don't know many of them, apart from since Chelsea signed
I'll be honest, don't really know any of them.
They're all 18, 19, a lot of young Brazilians from Brazil.
History dictates when you put a young player on a big contract, they never hit their potential, do they?
No.
You think, say, for example, even your big one, Casado, $200,000 a week, 8-year deal. You're never going to get rid of him if he plays bad. 2 years playing bad, he's still got 6 years left.
Yeah, it's a gamble. Yeah, for sure, it's a gamble. But
he can sit there, he can play a game, he can have the worst season of his life, and he's taking $200,000 a week. Same with all of them. There's no
Well, the thing is, there's. I know the media often report, he's on 200 odd grand a week, but the way Chelsea have been doing their contracts since Bowley took over, a lot of it's incentivised. So they'll only get certain payments if we qualify for the Champions League and performance bonuses.
I think it was Lavia's on 7 years, $100,000 a week, but every year if he hits appearances and certain markers, and Chelsea hit certain things, he gets his pay goes up.
But he's a young player, just been relegated to Southampton, didn't stand out for me. What's all the fuss about him?
CDM.
Liverpool went for him.
Chelsea
have got him and put him on loads of money. I just don't understand it.
This is what I was going to say, and this is where I think the Premier League's going a bit mad. It's the top side. There's so much money in it now. Every team's got 100, 200 million to spend, top 8, and you want to win. You're not going to go out there and buy a player from France for 35 million and take a gamble and he could become big. When you go out and go, Casado, great season, I'll spend double on it. And let your Brightons and teams like that buy the next player for 40 million. If he comes good, you'll pay 100. If you don't, you're not spending the money.
Yeah, so that you're basically paying them to do all the dirty work.
You're in their heads, they're buying sure things. Whereas Chelsea have gone out and just sort of doing what the Brightons and the Brentfords and stuff are doing, looking for the next big thing.
Yeah.
But they're paying stupid wages. They're not giving them. They've got nothing.
Well, you said it yourself. We haven't heard of any of them. You shouldn't be spending over £1 billion on players that no one's heard of.
I think it was a couple of episodes ago. I mentioned that Enzo was offered to Liverpool last summer for something like less than 10 million, and then in January he goes for like 105. Wow. Casado, Brighton signed him for less than $1 million, and then he goes for 100 and whatever it is. We're trying to cut that out. We're trying to get our own talent in, so we don't have to spend big on signing him later.
Yeah, but you've got no incentive. They've got no incentive, have they? What incentive do you have once you've got that big contract and then big years?
Well, they won't be on huge. I mean, like the youngsters, like for example, like Washington and whatnot like that. They're not going to be on huge money. Do you know what I mean? A lot of it's going to be performance based.
Yeah, but what are you going to do with it?
Do you know what's a weird one out of all them? The weirdest one for me is Cole Palmer for Man City.
Really?
What a weird move that is for Cole Palmer.
Going back to your point, though,
wants to play, doesn't he?
If the wages, like you're saying, the wages are big, it creates a problem to move them on, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because no one's going to want to take them on those sort of contracts, and as you said earlier, no one can afford them. So you are kind of stuck
you're on
with them.
100 grand.
But Cassiado's on 200 grand, isn't he? Right.
So if 80 million his contract's worth for 8 years.
So say he's on 200 grand a week, right? For 8 years, he has a bad season, and that Chelsea want to get rid. You're not going to buy someone and pay him 200 grand plus.
No.
You're going to have to pay more than 200 grand to get him away.
He's not going to go in there for less money.
Well, players do, don't they?
Well,
you just got to hope they do. Otherwise, you're stuck.
Depends how badly, as you said, how badly they want to play football.
But the signs, some of them don't make sense. I was looking. You signed 3 CDMs. You signed.
There's a lot of players. Let's put it that way.
You signed Lavia. You signed Casado, and there was is it
150
Chukwuemeka Wenka? I can't. That's a mouthful. I think he's another midfielder. There's
Graham Souness.
There's no goal to it, is there?
Graham Souness.
That's a squad in itself without who's already there.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these players in there, they've all gone out on loan, to France and places like that. But
is Aubameyang still there?
Yeah,
no, he's gone.
Why waste the money? Why waste buying them? And you've not actually. I don't think you've strengthened your squad.
Do you think it's a case of we're buying them so you can't have them?
Yes. I see. A Belgian reporter was saying about Lavia. Even when it was towards the end, Chelsea came in for him. He was still pushing for Liverpool, but he said the agent pushed Chelsea because it was a bigger contract, bigger money, longer contract, and I think it is right. I think players are just going there for the money and the long deals.
What about what Graham Souness said? He said about Todd Bowley, he's paid a combined 173 million for Casado and a 21-year-old midfielder with 1 year's experience of the Premier League at Brighton, and Romeo Lavia, a 19-year-old with a year at Southampton, because they were both linked with Liverpool. The numbers speak for themselves. Fernandes didn't score for Chelsea last season. Casado scored once for Brighton. Lavia scored once for Southampton. Bowley has spent 30 million on Nicholas Jackson from Villarreal, but that doesn't add up to a proven goal scorer for me.
See, I think Lavia is inflated. You'd probably say 40 million because he did come from a City's academy, and you look at their track record recently. Every player's a hit. City even had a 40 million buyback clause for next season with him. That's why Liverpool, Chelsea all went in from this year. But
I don't know. I think from Souness, for me, it's just a bit salty, if I'm honest with you. Him being a Liverpool guy, he's not too happy. He's lost out on Casado and Lavia.
He is right though. Nicholas Jackson. Why would you buy Nicholas Jackson? You spent £1 billion. Why wouldn't you sign one of the big strikes. Why don't you go for Oshiman? Someone you can show you can spend that sort of money.
We'll come on to that. But look, for example, he's basing how much we've spent on holding midfielders on the amount of goals they've scored. It's like, why did Arsenal spend 105 million on Rice? He doesn't score 30 goals a season. Do you know what I mean? It's a different...
But then you have spent 115 million on Casado, who's cost you goals in 2 games already this season.
Yeah, he's had a bad start, but I mean, hindsight's a lovely thing. We couldn't have predicted that when we... and I'm sure it will come good.
I think they're all just going into a team where there's no style of play. I don't think Poch is signing any of the players. I think it's all coming from above. I don't know whether he was naive in any of the press conferences, but when players are mentioned, it was, I don't know who's that. I think.
So what another thing this could lead to, and me and Chris have spoken about this, what we said earlier about because they're on high wages, if they have a bad season, because they're under an 8-year contract, they can just sit there. They could go on strike, Chris, which you've mentioned with players.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm going to put it straight for the record. Players striking absolutely disgusts me. I can't stand it.
Yeah.
I think I sent you a message when it first came out about someone striking. But then I did a bit of research, you see. And then I looked at strikes. And we had a strike about 3 or 4 months ago, pre-season. The first player to strike was the Crystal Palace keeper, Vicente Guaita.
Oh, right, okay.
Now, he went on strike for a completely different reason. He went on strike because Hodgson signed Dean Henderson. And he was told he wasn't going to be number 1 anymore. So he didn't try and force a move. He just says, I'm not playing in the reserves. I'm not sitting on the bench. I'm your number 1, and therefore I'm just not playing.
I did read something about him, though. I probably can't really remember it off the top of my head, but he tweeted when Palace put their team out, and it was like basically saying, I'm not striking, then just not picking me. And they announced one of their team sheets.
Is he still there now, or is he gone?
I know Henderson's the number 1 now, so I don't know.
I do agree. I think striking there should.
You had a player strike.
We're leaning on toe, yeah. I mean, again, but then Everton agreed the fee, and then ironically he changed his mind. He played for Leeds. He got some stick at St Andrews, Birmingham, and he scored a goal. And he didn't get the hero's welcome he was expecting. And then the next news on him was that he'd turned the move to Everton down. But let's be fair, players earning the sort of money we're banding about now and going on strike is ridiculous. But the bigger impact for me, and the other one I've got down to talk about is Kolo Muani.
Yeah.
I mean, at one point, Eintracht Frankfurt, he'll have no influence. He tried to force us out of PSG and rejected 80 million, right? Because they thought they were going to get 100.
Right.
Yeah. He went, in the end, deadline day, for 64.3, which turned out to be about 57 million quid. 64.3 million euros. Kolo Muani, Willy Gnonto, and then more recently, Matheus Nunes. 53 million in the end, was it, on deadline day to Man City?
I mean, I think it's a disgrace when players do it.
It is, but then is it the players now? Or is it the agents who stand to make a lot of money on the moves?
I don't know if you see this. Fabrizio Romano came out and said the other day when someone asked him about where do you hear from all these sources and all these rumours? And he said majority of it is players come in contact with him to push the narrative.
Yeah, I saw that.
So that's why when you look at when he announces stuff, it always hits. Vast majority is from players, agents, forces.
Very reliable, isn't he?
Yeah, he's excellent. I mean, yeah.
But you look at the teams it affects. Say like Nunes to City. Wolves need the money.
They've just got rid of Traore and who's the other one to Fulham? Both of them.
Jimenez.
Both on a free.
Yeah.
But you need teams like that need the money. It's not they need it, but when you're looking at a player like Nunes and they want to try and push 70, 80 million. Which probably wouldn't be wrong in today's market, how it's gone for centre midfielders. But you strike, they're going 50 million.
Yeah.
You can't stop it because Wolves still want to cash in on it.
Let's look at the effect it's going to have on the game, because what it then does is take the power away from the clubs and gives it to the player.
Yeah.
So therefore the contract just becomes a piece of paper that says, I'm going to be earning this much for this long if I sit it out.
Yeah, basically.
It makes the contract completely worthless. Willy Gnonto's 4 more years on a deal at Leeds. I happen to know more about that than the others. He's prepared to go on strike because he wants to go to Everton, in the case. All it does is make the agents money, and that's, let's be honest, why the agents are getting involved. They want a cut of it. They're getting their cut of it. It makes the contract situation a complete farce. Why have one? It gives the club absolutely no leverage other than to sue the player. And if they then have to take it to court with the agent, how long does that then take? We get a massive legal battle that drags on. And what happens at the end of that? Can the player then play for that team because he's contractually obliged to? Will the court make him play?
Well, that's the problem.
There we go. And then
has it ever got that far?
What? Not that I've read.
No.
But I mean, all of this really, it does nothing for me than to
That's how it started.
back up the modern day football's just a spoiled brat.
The Bosman rule.
On the free transfer. That's basically what it used to be called that years ago. On a Bosman. Remember that?
Yeah.
You got him on a Bosman. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's ever been that extreme where players...
I know you're clearly against striking, I think we all are. But,
yeah, more than that.
But is there any circumstance where you're like, yeah, I can understand why?
No, not for me.
No, nothing.
No, I think, you go back to old school values.
What if the player is like really badly treated, like clearly, and he's
do we know of one on £200,000 a week that's been badly treated?
I did see a rumour. I'm not sure if it was a rumour. It was on Twitter anyway.
I mean, when you say it like that,
I don't know if you've got an example of something. Sorry, where someone's been victimised by the club or something.
Ozil might have been one.
I see it on Twitter.
We don't know the story behind that, but
I see it on Twitter. I'm not sure about the source. Could be all made up, fabricated. But it was when Mbappe and the PSG deal was going on, and they said we'll freeze you out, put you in the reserves, and leave you there. And you're saying the French FA came out and said that that's against their working rights. Like, he's contracted to play for PSG. You can't push him out of the first team and freeze him out of there.
That's probably right.
And I think they pulled rank a bit because they didn't want their star player being left to rot in reserves. He doesn't have to play for the first team, but they have to keep him involved.
So what about Anthony's situation? And we can go on to that. So he's been dropped by the Brazil national side.
Because his missus didn't make him eggs and bacon in the morning.
Yeah, apparently. Is it a headbutt? Did he headbutt his missus? Do you know about it, Ollie?
I read about it.
Does he score many headed goals, this bloke? I mean,
But it added fuel to the fire. I saw a video. They had a camera outside his house and his wife girlfriend was leaving, packing all her stuff. So it adds to it a bit there. Yeah.
I don't think your national side drops you unless there's a bit of...
I think it's...
They know something.
I think it's risk of backlash. You look at the Mason Greenwood ordeal and things like that, and you don't really want to be... You want to try and distance yourself as much as possible.
It's everyday work, whether you work in a supermarket as a bin man or a footballer, if there's a complaint made, what tends to be the first thing is they have an investigation, don't they? And you get suspended.
Yeah.
So they've got to do... If they've seen to do nothing... And they're right in the mile.
It's not just off the cuff, because if you look at
what's off his head.
But if you look at what's being said, there,
allegedly. Sorry, otherwise I get the podcast.
It's not mentioned here on this section we're looking at, but evidence has already been submitted on his behalf in favour of him, from him, and whatnot. So this is something that's been ongoing. It's not just come out in the last couple of days. Do you know what I mean? It's been in the works, and they've dropped him because of the result of it.
I just think there's too many incidents with high-profile players at the minute that people
United
just don't want to get involved. Yeah, especially United. They must be thinking, not again.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on at United at the moment. You've got the Anthony incident, and then you've got Sancho.
This is this bizarre story that Ten Hag's blaming him for not giving it all in training, isn't he? And Sancho's coming out and saying, "Hey, no, it's not me."
I think it could be a case of it being Ten Hag.
Well, perhaps you don't fancy him, you don't want him there.
It's strange he spoke out the second time he spoke out like that against a player. He did it with Cristiano Ronaldo straight away. Now he's doing it as Sancho. I think he's just looking for a scapegoat in some of the mess.
I was going to say, when Sancho leaves, who's he going to blame then? Yeah. You know what I mean? It'll be someone else.
I just find he's not a Sancho buy, is he? Do you find when managers take over clubs, they do like to get rid of more or less everybody? Arteta's done it. Arteta's getting rid of every single person that he didn't sign. Kieran Tierney's the latest one. He's loaned him out to Real Sociedad, I think. And I think if you look at that 11, there might be one player in it that Arteta hasn't signed. Managers like a clear out, don't they, when they take over?
I think you look at...
He's another young player on major money, though, as well, Sancho, like we spoke about. He's not got that incentive. He's got his contract. He's young. He's on mega money. He's on about 450 grand a week. He's not even playing.
What went wrong?
Giving him that contract.
Big deal.
Giving him that contract at a young age. Like you said, it never pays off to give a young player that
When
money.
you look at some of the big hitters in the world at the minute, they start from a smaller club. Your Haaland,
Bellingham.
they build. They don't because they've got to work for it.
Although he did, where did he come from? Obviously,
City to Dortmund.
You can't just be down to the contract, though. An element of it falls on
I
the
don't
player's
think it
mentality.
Well, I think United's a weird club. I'm like Ten Hag, his signings. I think they're his own signings. And you look at the Premier League now, and I think the most detrimental thing teams are doing is allowing the managers to sign their own players. You look at sides now. Liverpool rarely get it wrong in the transfer market. They have a committee, a director of football. Klopp gets the last say. But they don't get it wrong.
Yeah.
Same with City, they identify it. Arsenal, you look at your transfer market since Edu come along.
Yeah, Arteta doesn't actually make the decisions.
Edu's you're getting it right almost every transfer.
Yeah.
Like you're identifying, and look, you wouldn't spend
That's a good point.
you wouldn't spend 110 million pounds on a player 2-3 years ago.
No.
You'd rather spend it on 4 or 5 players. Now
we would never have bought. We would never have gone for a player like
You've looked at your
Declan Rice.
team and you've gone, we need a midfielder. We will get Rice. It's what Liverpool done with Alisson, Van Dijk. They've gone, we need it. We get it. Then you look at the lower league clubs, Brighton. Brighton, they're changing managers, but they're still hitting every transfer because they have a director of football there. They've got philosophy in place, and they're just going, that's what we want. That's who we get.
But they haven't got a director of football at United, have they?
And that's what I was going to say.
Gary Neville has always said that.
Coming on to this, I see on Twitter again, great source Twitter, isn't it? It was saying Klopp and Guardiola only ever signed one player between them from a previous club, and that was Pep signed Thiago from Barca to Bayern. Never bought from his old club. You look at Ten Hag, Anthony, what's that left back? Malacia?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, Lisandro Martinez. Just buy them. Why? And a club at United's level, you shouldn't be signing Ajax players. Not to say they're not good enough. When you're signing a few, you should be looking bigger, better, more assured signings. It doesn't make sense. Like, you had Sancho, you had Rashford, you got Anthony. He's just a bit of a showboat. He never looked like a great player.
If he weren't at Ajax with Ten Hag, he wouldn't have signed him.
No.
The thing is, though, the model is so different, isn't it? You're talking about Man United and not signing Ajax players, but Ajax have got a great reputation of bringing players in an academy and actually coaching them.
Yeah.
Brighton are doing exactly the same thing. You mentioned Brighton, whether it be De Zerbi or Potter before. Whatever happened with Chelsea and Potter, you can't deny the structure of the club's one of the best. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're doing it at Palace to a degree as well. It's whether you're a coach and you're there to improve players, but clubs like Man United, Chelsea, Man City, or Man City probably not fair, you don't get the time. You lose 8 games, you're sacked. And you've never had that at Brighton. You've never had that really with, well, apart from the Dutch fella at Crystal Palace who was the worst man, De Boer. He didn't get very long. But it's whether you're a coaching development club, which ultimately then means you sell, like your Casado and your, I think Estepinian won't be long, will he? I mean,
I just think clubs like United, you should be holding yourself at a level. You've gone through it the last few years. You was settling for top 4. Neville was saying about it. Teams just go, be happy with top 4.
Arsene Wenger famously called it a trophy.
Yeah, there's no way though that Ten Hag is looking at a player like Sancho and saying, do you know what? I can make you better. I can make you into what I want. His approach, because he's got funds, because it's the club it is.
I don't need you.
Yeah. And I think Arsenal, like you say, astute, bring in what they need for what they need.
See what you just said there. Arteta is the opposite, and Havertz is a perfect example. Like you're saying, Ten Hag looks at Sancho and go, I don't want to give my time to improve you. I don't need to.
I don't think
Where Arteta's the total opposite. He's looked at Havertz, not performing at Chelsea, going, I want to buy you, bring you in, and I want to make something of you. And at the moment, it's backfiring, but give it time. Let's see what happens.
But that's what Liverpool have done with Gravenberch.
Yeah.
He weren't playing at Bayern Munich.
No, but there was 2 years ago, Liverpool had a 3-man shortlist for their centre midfielder. It was Chimene, Bellingham, Gravenberch. Lost out on all 3.
Yeah.
So they've waited a year, gone for Gravenberch because he's not playing. And obviously, Klopp's obviously seen something in it that...
What do you think of him rejecting the call up to the Dutch under-21s?
It's not good look for him, but as a player playing club football, he's obviously looking to push it. Really want to it shows that he's got a point to prove. I think more than anything, he wants to be the best. He wants to excel. And at the minute, it's internationals. Is it friendly internationals?
I'm not sure. I think it is, isn't it? We've got, I think it is, yeah.
Do you really want to play in it? Under 21s as well.
But most people in his shoes will be absolutely privileged to be called up to their national side. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I agree. I can see it from both sides. I mean, at the end of the day, you were going back to an earlier topic. If they can't be made to play, otherwise it's effectively like a strike, isn't it? I'm unavailable. I'm not going to play.
Could you class that as a strike?
Well, you could do in some ways, couldn't you? But I mean, I think with the national side, it's more about the respect for your country, as you say. I think that's the important thing. But on the other hand, what is he? How old is he? He's quite young. He's 22. But he's moved countries. He's probably got a wealth of support
for the first team for Holland as well.
Perhaps he just wants to settle in England more and get to know the club more.
Learn the language you need to.
Liverpool. He speaks good English already. But
that doesn't mean he can understand Scouse.
Would I personally say no to a national team? No, I wouldn't.
I think it's like you were saying earlier. You just want it. He's got to want it. He's gone to the club. Yeah. Obviously, not played for Bayern last year. I think made 3 starts, and I think it's like he's really going. Look, I am going to be one of the best. He obviously rates himself and wants to then now go out there and show it. And he wants to work hard, stay with Liverpool, learn as much as you can.
I do understand why he's done it. I struggle to.
You probably see it as a step back as well. He's been in the first team. Do you know what I mean? The international first team, if he has, then going to the under-21s.
I mean, to me, it's not a major. That's obviously a talking point, but it's not major to me. The fact that he said no, I think it's just something that happens, isn't it?
From a personal perspective, I think having internationals this early in the season is an absolute shambles.
Yeah. Why do they do it? 4 games in, international break.
Yeah, they've only just come back from.
I don't get it.
Doesn't make sense. That's what they're saying about when they've always moaned about over congested fixtures. Like, why do internationals play friendlies?
Yeah.
It's like no disrespect to the smaller countries, but as an England.
Is it anything to do with the
fan, you're just
travelling to Moldova?
You know you're going to be in the Euros and your World Cups every single tournament.
Is it anything to do with the mistiming of the World Cup? Because obviously we had the World Cup.
It's every year. Every
year. September. I think it's October. The end of October, early November. There's another one. They always come at a bad time. Like after a good run of fixtures, you're getting your teeth into the league now, and it's
disruptive, isn't it?
Yeah, really. And sometimes it comes at a good time for clubs, even 4 games in. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's a bad time. Like for Arsenal, I'd say it's probably come at a bad time because we're just off the back of beating United.
Big win.
Late win. And then other clubs that are losing every week, it's probably like, right, this gives us time to reset, go again after the international break.
Teams like Burnley and stuff don't have many international players. They're obviously get on training ground, get down.
Yeah. The
other thing, look at it another way. The young lad has actually just been honest and said, "No, I want to concentrate on my club."
Yeah,
if he didn't want to play, he could say, "Well, I'm unavailable. I'm injured."
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's done it the very honest way. And let's look at the end game here. Is there anyone around this table that thinks that Gravenberch will never play for Holland again?
Yeah, exactly.
And actually, going back to what you're saying about international players again, he's not been playing for Bayern. Why are you playing him in the under-20? I know he's great talent, and he's at one point meant to be going to be one of the best in the world potentially.
But it seems like it doesn't matter if you play for your club at the moment. If you get picked for your country, we spoke about that earlier.
But from the national team's perspective, they see him not playing for Bayern and they know what a talent he is. They're going to want to give him minutes where they can.
Yeah,
he probably knows that as well. He's like, they'll come back. It's just not the right time right now. And fair play to him. If we could just move on to the Premier League a little bit, because you said about Burnley not having many internationals, so it'll maybe suit them having a break. They obviously lost 5-2 to Spurs at the weekend. Spurs looking very good, by the way. I think they've looked good all season.
I think Harry Kane's looking back at Tottenham thinking, I might have made a mistake.
No, I don't think
so.
No way. I don't think so.
I don't know. When you look at the way they're playing.
I think he's wanted out of there for a few years.
I think they're playing like that because he's not in the team.
Yeah, I'm going to completely agree. I think Postecoglou has changed the style of play.
He's very similar to Poch.
Another set system. We look at the score sheet. Maddison's on it. Romero's on it.
Maddison is on fire.
Yeah. But he's changed the shape. It used to be just Sonny wanging a ball in and Kane getting on the end of it, or vice versa. Now there's more build-up play to their game.
Yeah.
There's more dynamism.
They look good.
They do look good. I agree.
I think Kane would still score 30, 40 goals and they'd look just as well.
To be fair, though, people have been slacking Spurs off as a nation for about 2
Yeah,
seasons.
I know.
So it's about time they got some positive press, really.
At the start of the pre-season, I found it quite funny. I thought Celtic manager, he ain't going to pull it off.
Yeah,
I thought they're going to get bashed and he's just come in, refresh the side. But then you look back at Spurs, it's Mourinho and then on to Conte, two of the most negative managers in football. And you look at them, they do so well in Italy because that's what the style of play is. In England, it's so attacking. Even you look at Burnley, they got pumped, but Company's got high line, plays attacking football.
With Company, do you think he's in trouble?
Yes, massively.
Do. I do.
I think he's playing what a top 8, top 10 side should play. He hasn't got the players to do it. He's high line, plays out from the back, trying to play quick two-touch
Man City football that he played with the players that
just
on the same level.
It worked in the Championship because of the level of football, but the Premier League,
that's where those players are.
I think you look at the Premier League now, I think it's top 15 teams in it, 16 teams. So strong. The gulf's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger now.
So the thing as well with the Spurs revolution, of course, is that you've got to be guarded against his ability to change. I mean, is it a one-season wonder? When teams have found him out and they've analysed them, if he carries on Postecoglou playing that way, it'll be like a Bielsa situation or something where everyone first season, whether that be in the Championship,
that's the risk.
This isn't Tottenham that we played last season.
Yeah, exactly, and now they're thinking, "God, goodness me, Christ!" And then when they've analysed them, we don't know what Postecoglou's ability to change the tactics is going to be to evolve that team. At the minute, he's working with, I dare say, 20-odd players that are all better than everything he ever had at Celtic.
Yeah,
but a lot of the players Conte had under him, they've done nothing with them, and they've just turned into a different animal.
Yeah, I do like Postecoglou.
Going back to Company, right?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
You think he's in trouble? How many games do you give a newly promoted side? How many games do you give that manager before you say, hang on, we need to bring in someone else, we don't want to get relegated?
Honestly, I think from a Premier League sense, probably the first 10 to 15.
I was going to say 10.
Got to go, because you've got to think the next 20, 30 games are massive. You've got to get points and you ain't going to get many.
But does it also
look
depends
at the
on who
table.
you've got?
They're not cut
They're
adrift.
below Luton.
Yeah, well,
which I'm surprised at.
By one goal. But they're not cut adrift. We're not looking at that saying Luton and Burnley on naught as we were many years ago when, I don't know if anyone remembers when Barnsley came up. They didn't win a game and other teams above them performed much better. And they were almost 12 points adrift before they start at this stage of the season. Burnley are still there. Everton there, Sheffield United there, Bournemouth. They're only a one win away from coming out. Yeah, exactly that. And I look at the club and I think, yes, Burnley have changed since the old seasons before because they've now got American ownership.
Yeah.
The old chairman there, was it Peace? Was he?
Not too sure.
Jeremy Peace, wasn't it? I don't know if I'm right about that. But they had a history of keeping managers forever, and of course Dyche was there forever. So I wouldn't suggest. I'm not saying 10 or 12 games is quick because it actually gives you time, doesn't it? But I don't think that they're going to pull the trigger in the next couple of weeks.
It's the way they play. They are trying to play like a top side, like a City side. They want to play out from the back, high line.
And teams that normally come up from the Championship, the ones that stay up normally play ugly Championship football when they come up. And Premier League clubs don't know how to handle it.
Yeah, that's right.
And he's doing a complete opposite.
I think as well, you see a lot more of it. I think Burnley, Luton, Sheffield go back down. I think you see a lot of the teams going up.
They are probably the worst three teams in that league, although Everton scored their first
I don't see Everton staying up this year.
I mean, they haven't scored a goal until this weekend.
They didn't, to be fair. I watched that game against Sheffield United and all right, Sheffield United got one rebounding off the post and Pickford's back, But it was probably the best performance Everton have put in. And once they got that goal, they did look like they would create, but then they're playing, not being funny, they are playing Sheffield United. But you'll know as an Arsenal fan, I mean, Sheffield United are the most tricky customers ever. I mean, you've had a fair few cup ties.
With City the other week as well.
Yeah, I mean, they pardon the pun with the steel city, but they've got steel and grit about them, Sheffield United. And I think, I can't see Luton surviving. But then we're 3 games into a 38-game season.
Yeah. And teams that were struggling last season, they're doing better than I thought. Nottingham Forest are doing well. They beat Chelsea.
Yeah.
Chelsea are very inconsistent. Do you think Poch will get them to where they need to be?
Where do Chelsea need to be? That's the question. In my opinion, being a Chelsea fan, we should be
minimum Champions League.
Minimum. I mean, a bad season for us historically would be in the top 6.
That's the thing, is it? The Chelsea fan base expectations always been so high. I feel sorry for them.
Since the takeover.
I think your biggest problem is you spent £1 billion on players, and I don't think any of them get a sniff in the City, Liverpool, Arsenal team.
Well, apart from Lavia and Casado.
Lavia wouldn't get in their team. No way. Lavia's not getting in any of them teams.
I don't think there's one player that gets in guaranteed.
I agree.
Well, that's why Liverpool wanted to sign him.
Casado might get in a team.
They're all young players. Lavia's 19, 20. Casado's 21. They need time to develop. They're good players now, but they need time to develop.
Where have you seen a team sit there and just sign young players and go, well, they'll develop and they turn into a world-class team?
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I'm happy with the signings we've made and the young talent we've got, because they are talented lads.
Think Poch stays. I think you come 10th.
But we do need more. We do need more experience in there for them younger players. Historically, that's how projects work. They bring the young players through and mix them in with experience.
Still have a spine, don't you?
Yeah.
Like you build slowly. You've bought.
Oh, it's been very erratic.
It's bad. Yeah, badly erratic.
Yeah.
Like it's not Poch signing. We weren't Potter signing, and that was the whole reason you had Graham Potter. He was there to have time.
See,
didn't have time.
How
long do you give Poch?
It's kind of going back to what you mentioned earlier about how football clubs are run, and you referenced United with Ten Hag signing the players. Arsenal, you mentioned that Arteta doesn't sign the players, but he has a collaboration with Edu.
He has an input,
and he says, I need a holding midfielder with these attributes.
And then might give him a list. This is a list of players I like the look of. Yeah.
And essentially, that's what Chelsea have went and done. So, with Potter signings, they're trying to go for the same kind of philosophy, regardless of the manager. The players should be okay for whatever manager they choose to bring in. I think, give it time, we'll be all right.
One question, do you reckon you need to sign more players to get top 4?
The thing is, right?
The answer should be no, but it isn't.
the thing is, okay, our team, I do not think is good enough to get top 4. Who would we sign to get top 4? That's the question.
And how can Poch get the best out of that team?
Just by developing them, really.
You look at
Can anyone? That's a big question. I mean, I was going
It's
to
a
come out
massive
with
task.
what does it have to be a success for Chelsea? Because no one can seem to just quite get it right. I mean, Lampard, you could argue, no one knows the club better than him.
He was on a transfer ban as well.
Right.
He won't have to
I'm not
buy
saying
anyone,
that
was he?
he did tremendously, or I'm not saying he did badly. I'm neutral about it. But what I'm saying is, if you're saying no one really gets the club, then you can't get better than Lampard for that. He knew the club. Yeah. You're talking about coaching. We know that Pochettino's a world-class coach. He was coveted by lots of teams. If he can't get it right. And it almost reminds me of going back 6-8 years ago with Newcastle. No matter who went in there, Alan Shearer, Graham Souness, Sam Allardyce, no one could get them going. No one could get them right. And it feels a bit like that with Chelsea at the moment. That don't matter who you've got. No disrespect to any Chelsea fans. They were clamouring for Pochettino. We want Pochettino above all else. And if it's not quite working, perhaps he needs some more time.
One thing I will say is when you look at Poch's clubs, Southampton done well with, Spurs have done well with, PSG, the team just spends money. He didn't do well with. He got sacked. So it's.
But the way that PSG spend and how Chelsea spend, we haven't signed them big players. We haven't got them egos in the dressing room.
Yeah, but it's not egos, it's leaders.
Poch has a good record of taking over teams that are an average team. And he gets the best out of an average team, not goes into a team with unlimited funds.
So does he get time, do you think?
Yeah, I think he definitely...
Who do you think Graham Potter in that dressing room are they?
Thiago Silva.
I don't know.
Reece James.
He's getting a bit erratic on social media, Thiago Silva, isn't he? He's arguing back with fans that are blaming him.
Well, yeah, to be fair, though...
I think a fan supporters group or something questioned he's not good enough to play in a back three, and he actually responded to it and was like, we weren't playing a back three, we're playing a back four. So it's not my fault.
The context to that is Chelsea fans are saying that us playing in a negative way with a back three and not playing our attacking players is affecting our results.
Fan, are you happy with this?
Well, at the moment, at 12th.
In general, with everything that's happening with your club?
Not now, not at the moment, no. But I can see, I can see a path forwards. I can see a lot of young players that are 19, 20, 21. I can see them improving and I can see us just going up and up the league.
How many players on that list do you think will be a superstar?
Lavia, I think he will be.
Let's be honest.
Casado,
Chelsea are
Enzo
not interested
Fernandez.
in making money. They don't need any money. They've got plenty of it. They're not looking to sell anyone on as a superstar.
What do you think of Mudryk?
Mudryk, I didn't know much about him until he signed for Chelsea, if I'm honest with you.
And they only signed to stop Arsenal getting him.
Yeah, it probably is that, to be honest.
Do you think that rumour about Emily Smith-Rowe and Mudryk had anything
I hope not.
about it?
I hope not.
Hopefully he comes good, but I mean, at Shakhtar, to be honest with you, I don't watch Shakhtar play football, so I can't really say what he was like there.
I think you'll struggle with getting top 7 if you don't sign a striker.
Well, I'm willing to give Jackson, a bit of time until January. Maybe we can go in for Ivan Toney once his band's up. Someone like that.
You've got Nkunku, who I think you're unlucky with. I think he would have been a star in the Premier League. He looked very good in Germany.
Yeah.
And it does look like he can be a bit of a baller. But
in the Chelsea team that we have now that is not really scoring goals, if he gets some chances and we aim for him, he could get maybe 10, 12 goals a season.
I just still think you're just lacking a striker.
At the moment. But we've signed Jackson. He's unproven. Yes. And apparently he was a winger up until like 6 months ago.
And the problem
Do you think Aubameyang's problem was his attitude?
Yes.
Well, there comes an Arsenal man.
Well, you say that as an Arsenal fan.
Ever since Chelsea new start for him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And
He had an attitude problem at Dortmund. When we signed him, the Dortmund owner publicly outed him, saying how bad his attitude is and good riddance that he's gone, even though how good he was for Dortmund. With Arsenal, he turned up. He was our captain. He turned up late to the North London derby and was dropped. He turned up late a couple of times after that. He's got an attitude problem. He drives around in gold-wrapped cars. Maybe I'm looking too much into that.
He's made his money.
He's got an attitude problem.
That's his personal life. And I can understand, at Arsenal, had an attitude problem. I mean, at Dortmund, I've heard he has as well.
Didn't he drop the FA Cup once as well?
I don't know.
On television, he dropped it.
Did he?
It fell apart. Yeah.
I will say, the whole time he was at Chelsea, I never heard once about him kicking up a stinker about not playing.
I think the move to Chelsea grounded him a little bit. I think it was a wake-up call. And I remember when he came to the Emirates, and I think we were singing our new song, North London Forever, and he sort of looked round. And for me, as an Arsenal fan, maybe I was looking too much into it, it was almost like he looked round going, I fucked up. If I just sorted myself out, I'd still be at a club like this. Instead, I got pushed to Barcelona. Then they didn't want me, so I've gone to Chelsea. He messed his own career up.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, when I know what game you're on about, at that point, when he was playing for Chelsea, he wasn't good enough to get into the Arsenal team.
Is that where he was looking around?
No, exactly. But he wasn't good enough to be at the Arsenal team. But if he stayed at Arsenal, he would probably be starting every game and he'd be on fire still. He messed his own career up. And I think that was a wake-up call for him, that game. But... yeah,
anyway. It's bigger than Aubameyang, isn't it? I mean, there's been, Havertz, Werner, people like that. They've never found the back of the net, have they? Unfortunately for you guys.
And that's why players with good attitudes are worth the money you pay for them. Like I've said for weeks now, with Declan Rice, everyone questions, was he worth 100 million? Yes, straight away for me. Yes, in today's market, I think he is. He's fit every week. He's English. He's got a good attitude. He seems like just a nice player. Everyone loves him, whether he plays for your team or he doesn't. And then I thought that was going to rock West Ham. I thought now he's left, I thought they're going to really struggle. But they've replaced him with 3.
But that's what I was going to say. Teams like West Ham, even Spurs to an extent. See, Harry Kane, I still think could get 30 goals. But it's teams that selling their players for big money. They like I said with their how they do their transfers and dealings now. It's just hit. Brighton, I don't think they've had a bad floor.
They've been forced into that though, haven't they?
West Ham sold Declan Rice for a lot of money, and they bought James Ward-Prowse. Who else have they bought them to?
Alvarez and Kudus from
great business for West Ham, and look how they're playing.
Yeah,
I had them down as getting relegated. They are not getting relegated.
That's a perfect example where they thought holding on to a player like Declan Rice was keeping them strong, and it's actually a case of he, to an extent, he's holding them back because they've allowed their midfield to develop 10 times as much.
Yeah, let's. Can we play a little game?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you ready? You've got the names in front of you. I'm going to obviously mention them as well. So it's start, bench, or sell. Okay, and I will start with you, Ollie. Okay.
First one
will be Anthony for United, Sancho for United, and Sterling for Chelsea. Start, bench, sell.
Pretty easy that one. I'd start Sterling. I'd probably bench Sancho and sell Anthony because I think he's atrocious footballer.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah. I can't stand the players do with pointless skills and.
I'd have him over Sancho at the moment. Sancho isn't playing.
Yeah.
We're taking this from a hypothetical club. We've got these players at our disposal. Right,
yeah.
okay, yeah.
Okay, so your next one, Chris, I'll go to Maddison, Fernandes and Odegaard. Start, bench, sell.
Why do you give me the hardest three of them? Because you know full well that I want both Odegaard and Maddison in my team. And I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm going to have to go with... I'm going to start Maddison. No, right. I'm going to bench Odegaard and I'm going to sell Fernandes based on his attitude.
Do you need help out the door?
No, not
Do you want me to show
particularly.
you out the door?
No.
I think if Maddison doesn't get injured this year, I think he'll be the best.
He could be up there with
this
one of the
season.
goal scorers. You know,
I think he's going to be outrageous.
I did say, to clarify that, I would want to start them both. It's such a hard pick, but I just think that well, it depends who you're looking at from point of view of. If my team needs a midfield general, that goes the other way around. If my team needs goals, it's Maddison.
Would you link to Maddison at any point?
Yeah.
There's no way for me, Fernandes,
Before Odegaard.
because
him or Odegaard.
his attitude stinks.
If you had
So you're selling Fernandes.
I'm
We're
selling
all in
Bruno
agreement.
Fernandes.
Yeah,
I am.
I can't stand him. So Chelsea.
But yeah, he's a phenomenal footballer at times.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's just got poor attitude, and he throws his toys out the pram when they're losing.
He's
Nothing's
just got
ever
one
his
of them
fault.
faces, isn't he?
Yeah, no.
So go on.
No. I think I've said enough.
Yeah. So, calm. Start, bench, or sell Yaya Toure, Cesc Fabregas, and Thiago Silva.
So start would be David Silva.
David Silva, sorry.
Yeah.
David Silva.
Bench would be Yaya Toure and sell Fabregas. And I really rate Fabregas. I really rate Fabregas. I'd have him in any team during any
Obviously
team.
not.
But when you've got to pick one to sell, I mean, over Yaya Toure, the influence
So
he
who
has
you
on
starting?
games.
And we're not
Silva.
counting age in this, obviously.
No,
It's just as free
In their
players.
prime.
In their
Yes,
prime, then.
yeah,
Base it on their prime.
I had Toure for that one.
What, start?
Start.
So you'd start Toure over David Silva.
Yes.
I probably would.
That style of play, you don't get them often.
But then you're-
They're
Tough one, isn't it?
they're unbelievable in like Vieira's, and he's had that build. He's tall.
He's very underrated.
When he gets going, you can't stop him.
He's underrated. Back to you, Ollie. Start, bench, or sell Claude Makelele, Gattuso, and Kante.
I mean,
I think this is the hardest one.
I think
It's hard.
starts the easy one. I think it's Makelele. I think you can't have a position named after you and not be the best.
It is the Makelele position, isn't it? Yeah.
He created it. He's done it. He mastered it. Second one, I think it's personal preference. I'd probably go with Gattuso just for more.
What with Gattuso? What would you do with him?
I'd probably bench him just for more memories. I just remember him just being that midfielder that just fouls people, aggressive.
Yeah.
Like
Just a dog at your heels.
you haven't
and
had.
Pit
I
bull.
don't think you've got
Yeah.
a lot of midfield that like he was just a borderline psychopath, but he was a great footballer. And in that Milan team, it's what they needed to be one of the best teams around in that time. And then, Kante gets sold, even though he's been pretty special in this Premier League.
So it's
era.
literally in that order then.
Yeah.
Start Makelele, bench Gattuso, sell Kante.
I do feel bad though because Kante.
Yeah, but he'll take it well. He's a nice bloke.
He's probably still
Right.
driving around in his Mini in Saudi, isn't he?
Yeah.
Back to Chris. A start, bench, sell Roy Keane, Patrick Vieira, Clarence Seedorf.
That's brutal.
Isn't it just? I'm not sure he wants me back on this podcast. For me, the clear choice is obviously between Keane and Vieira, and the two very good players. The grit and the determination of Keane, I liked. I've always liked, but there's nothing that. Again, I can't pick between the two.
You've got to.
Well, I know, and I know it's not maybe very popular. But I'm going to start Keno, and I'm going to bench Vieira, and I'm going to get rid of Clarence. Unfortunately.
I mean, to be fair, I think you have more of the Keno era than all of us here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I did see him.
It's a polite way of saying you're old, Chris.
Him and Haaland, Alfie Inga, not Erling, of
Yeah.
course, who wasn't born at that point. I did see them have some ding-dongs at Ellen Road, and I was there when David Weatherall and David Batty done his leg in Keno and he had to leave on crutches and he didn't really get a nice reception back into the ambulance in those days. These days they have much more luxury in a medical room, but he was actually jeered out into the back of the ambulance. But yeah, I mean, I just think it's what qualities you want, and there's no doubt. I think actually Vieira, again, is probably a more talented footballer hands down than Roy Keane.
Yes.
But I remember Leeds, I like someone to come in like you Gattuso. I want someone to bash him up in midfield.
Yeah, Vieira did do that though.
He did do. I mean, they had a brilliant bus up in the tunnel, didn't they?
For me, I would have, and I'm being biased, started Vieira. I would have benched Seedorf and sold Keane.
So I would have started Seedorf.
But can he get out as well? I think that's a poor shout.
Really?
You look at them.
What, me?
Him, with Seedorf starting, I think compared to the other two,
They have different style of players, though, aren't
world
they?
class as well.
Yeah.
I think any of that could have
Depends what you want from your midfielder in your team.
we won the Champions League 3 different clubs, didn't we?
Yeah. I mean,
that one up.
Yeah, exactly. So last one for you, Khan. Start, bench, sell Ibrahimovic, Rooney, Eto'o.
So
I think this is difficult.
yeah, it was difficult, but then I had a little think about it. What do I want from a striker?
Goals.
Exactly. So I'm going to sell Wayne Rooney.
What? He's scored so many goals. Anyway,
Yeah, okay, but
he's got the United record and England record.
But out of them 3 players, okay,
I want to hear the last bit of this first.
out of them 3 players, who's the least likely to hit 30 goals in a season?
Ibra.
yeah.
No.
At times he's one-dimensional.
Ibra.
No
But
way.
that said, I would have started if I had them 3. I'd have started.
Yeah, but then
So hang on, what was your choice? What was your choice?
Okay, so I would have sold Wayne Rooney.
That's mad.
I would have benched. You ready for this? Samuel Eto'o. And I would have went with Ibrahimovic up
I
top.
would have started Ibrahimovic
I think-
if it was my pick.
I do sort of sway to Ibra a bit. Longevity, goals. I mean, he's done it everywhere he's gone. Rooney, though.
I'm struggling with this.
I swear he was scoring like 40
Rooney
or
is
50 goals a
prime.
season at PSG.
Well,
I know it's the
don't
French
a lot
league,
about
but
Eto'o, really. I mean, I know he's
still the goals.
But then at the same time, Wayne Rooney is like your childhood striker at the minute, isn't he?
I would have started Rooney, benched Eto'o and sold Ibra.
But then when did Rooney come out of his prime? Because that was early. As well.
When was he ever really in his
Oh,
prime?
he had some phenomenal.
Come on,
seasons,
Khan.
really.
No, Rooney.
He's
Ray-
United all-time got goal. Man
Yes.
United all-time goal scorer,
Yeah.
and England,
Yeah.
unless Kane has just taken it over.
Yeah.
I don't know
But
if you remember.
if you
this, but he did
remember
a
when
series-
Rooney was at United, the question was always there: what is his best position?
No, for years he was a striker. Then
Football.
towards the end of his career, then
But
towards the
even-
end of his career, they dropped him back. He was the one.
He had a series on Sky called Wayne Rooney's Street Football. Does anyone remember?
Rain
it?
Yeah.
Street
Street
football,
Football.
Yeah.
Street striker.
Yeah,
Something
street
like that.
striker.
And you see some of the. I mean, he's just a phenomenal footballer.
And
But
you're selling
I'm
him.
sure you've done this. Yeah, I can see why. But I mean, the 3 you've given are really obviously different for a reason.
Even in his prime, it was always, should he be that number 9 or should he be playing off the
In his
striker?
prime, he was a striker.
People shouting at this podcast now, disagreeing with us all. That's what football's about, isn't it? It's about a debate.
Look, I mean, I don't know what the rest of the 11 is, or the other players on the pitch
Yeah,
are.
we didn't
If
have
I
any
want
goalies.
goals,
Imagine
I'm going
Fass was on this
Ibrahimovic.
one, and he come out with that. Sell Rooney.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I think we might need a new piece of kit. Like,
Great player, but if you're looking at
do you
all...
reckon he ever hit his prime? Like, do you reckon he could have
Yes.
been
What do
better?
you mean? Did he hit his prime?
That's the thing, with Rooney as a player, he
no,
does...
No, I mean, he hit.
Fans will be on his way down the studio and
No,
everything.
what I mean is the level he was at like 18, 19.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever went
he
higher.
was scoring 30 goals a season at one point.
Yeah, but
Not in
Is
the
that
league.
not a prime?
Not
No,
in the
yeah,
league,
but
he
I mean,
wasn't.
yes, he was.
What, in the league, he
Yeah.
got 30 goals?
Yes.
How often?
For about 3 or 4 years in a row, he done that.
We need this fact checked.
yeah, but I mean, like when he was 18, 19, he was scoring goals at United.
Get it out.
I
And
will.
what I mean is, like, he's just sort of like, I'm not saying his level was low, but he was so high at 18, 19, I just feel like he never actually took it up another level to that, like 40, 50 goals, like crazy numbers, like Haaland. Sort of
Who
level.
else has ever done that?
No one. I mean, the only other striker you'd say that's peaked very young was Michael Owen as well.
Yeah, they burnt him out. I can't believe it was.
Okay, so the most league goals Rooney ever got was 27 in a 34-game season. 34 games. No, 34 games he played in, yeah. So Eto'o,
Right, but over his seasons, how consistent was he getting like near 27?
twice.
Yeah, then what? 26?
No, he got 20. Just let me get up. He got close to that once, and then the rest of it was in the teams.
I struggle to believe that. United's all-time top goal scorer.
Yeah,
But
look,
he
so
scored from eight.
he got over 20 goals in a season twice in his career.
But he was scoring goals. 8
That is surprising.
But you look
These are
at
league games, just in the Premier League. 26 there, 27 there.
what year
What are
was
these
that?
goals here?
Yeah.
What
So there's
year,
28, there's 32.
No, that's
So-
games played.
Oh, right,
The
okay.
next is
what year was it he got the goals?
That's surprising.
So 11-12, he got 27 league goals, and he got 26 league goals in 9-10.
So it's 24,
I'm
25.
surprised at that. Fair
But
play.
that's what I meant. I just meant like his levels, like
He burst onto the scene. Not like Nico Richards, like he actually burst on the scene.
Yeah.
But then is he another one where he probably played too much? He played. I remember if you watch the documentary, he said he played through injuries, and I think he had a broken foot in the World Cup.
What did he do on his heel? What's that on your heel? He done that, didn't he?
Achilles tendon.
He done that really bad, didn't he?
Yeah, it's like England seem to love doing it to their players. We just put our players under it. Because he was saying with Owen, it was like he always seemed to play for every knock, niggle.
But we were relying on Rooney at the age of 18, weren't we?
Yeah, well,
England.
that's the mad thing. You had to remember, if you
Which
remember,
is shocking, really.
Euro 2004. It was Rooney come on, and that was a mad thing. That was his only tournament he scored until I don't think he scored in another world stage tournament, European stage.
I would like to make a correction. I would like to actually change my opinion, and I would actually sell Eto'o based on the stats I've seen. And I would put Rooney on the bench. But Ibrahimovic, he hit over 20 goals in a season, 6 seasons in his career.
Where was he? Spain.
It had Italy, 23 goals top season. Well, Milan, he got 28 goals. PSG got 38 goals one season,
They're not
26.
the Premier League, are they? Rooney was in the Premier League the whole time.
Yeah, he was.
Mental defenders that want to break his legs.
How many did Zlatan get in the
But you can only play who's
He
in front
scored
of
a
you.
lot for
For Man
United.
United.
Yeah, didn't he?
Zlatan.
Zlatan at United.
Yeah, I think he got like 17 or something. didn't he?
Oh, is that it?
But-
That's still quite a lot at
in
the
a
end of his
short
career.
space of time, yeah.
At his age.
And he got injured towards the end of that season, didn't he? Or was it the second?
Right, we mentioned we were going to talk about commentary. Chris, you've got some quotes, funny commentary.
yeah,
Peter
yeah,
Drury's
yeah.
come out with some recently.
This is the story, isn't it? That Peter Drury came out and said something about Chelsea and their sponsors. I'm sure one of you can remind me when I get my sheet here, but didn't he hit the headlines for talking about Chelsea being sponsored by Microsoft and they still wouldn't excel even if they were? That was his quote that got him newsworthy. And I just think commentators now are coming out with some good stuff, and it's changed over the years. I think when I was sort of watching football as a kid in the 80s, commentators weren't allowed the freedom to do that anymore. You know, you watch the FA Cup final and they would talk about the wonderful atmosphere at the FA Cup final of 1987 and whatever. And the gaffes that commentators came out with then were just that, gaffes. Whereas now you've got personalities in the game that can express themselves. And actually I think, that shows a bit of intellect. It's quite clever. I know you're not the greatest fan of Peter Drury, but
I love him.
Yeah, I liked him when I just heard him in the Champions League because it was always big moments and it was quite good. But now hearing it in the Premier League and you're 3 games in and he's like commentating like it's like the Arsenal United game, it felt like was it Angel from Above or Lord Gabriel or something? It was
that's
like
quality.
I go back to one here from him when Peter Cech saved a penalty from Gabriel Jesus. Peter denies Jesus again. This is sort of a biblical quote.
Quality. I love it.
When Pep Guardiola substituted Gabriel Jesus for David Silva, he put Jesus for Silva, a move that Judas would be proud of. Gabriel Jesus of City scores from a cross, and Jesus heads home from the cross. They're not by accident,
I mean, it's much better than is it Martin Tyler? Was it before?
Yeah,
his very boring commentary, especially for Liverpool games. Never seemed to celebrate a goal.
I miss the old Andy Gray and.
Well, we've got some quotes from yesteryear as well, and I say these ones are probably just unfortunately the poor people messing up. But I thought this was a good one. They've picked their heads up off the ground, and now they've got a lot to carry on their shoulders. Ron Atkinson. Terry Venables, legend. If history repeats itself, I think we can expect to see the same thing again.
You should get some Michael Owens in there, surely.
Yeah, we got. Sadly, he doesn't feature as much as I hope. Brian Moore. No, he was one. He was quite a posh, old school voice. Oh, what a lovely past. That sort of era. They've flown him from all over the world. Have the rest of the world team. Brian Moore again, and now the formalities are over, we'll have the national anthems. Clive Tilsley, he's on ITV, wasn't he? He showed him the left leg, then the right. Where's the ball? The defender asks. It's up his sleeve. The ball goes down the keeper's throat where it hits him on the knees, to say the least. The ageless Teddy Sheringham, he's 37 now. Some of them greats. Kevin Keegan again. Tottenham are trying tonight to become the first London team to win the Cup. The last team to do so was the 1973 Spurs team.
Michael Owen made some silly quotes. Have you got any or not?
He doesn't feature really. I mean, what have we got here? We've got most of the players will be wearing rubbers tonight, from Garth Crooks, who was talking obviously about the studs for anyone who's old enough to remember rubber studs. Used to be able to change them.
Yeah.
Ian Wright is one for Arsenal here. It's sometimes easier to defend a 1-goal lead than a 2-goal lead. David Pleat, ex-Spurs boy. You either win or you lose. There's no in between. Right. Chris Kamara, legend from Somerset.
Yeah.
Not only has he shown Junior Lewis the red card, but he's sent him off. Another cammy one at the end here. He's got a knock on the shin there, just above the knee. Right, so brilliant. Just the changes in commentary. And I think that Peter Drury and people like that should be allowed to express it.
Going back to Drury though, do you think he pre-plans any of this stuff?
I hope he does.
Yeah,
because it's brilliant.
This is the one I'll never forget. Is the Roma in the Champions League?
Yeah, brilliant. I love it.
Roma have risen from the ruins. Manolas, the Greek god in Rome. The unthinkable unfolds before our eyes. This was not meant to happen. This could not happen. And this is happening. It is a Greek from Mount Olympus who has come to the 7 hills of Rome and pulled off a miracle. How can you?
I love it.
But how can you pull that out of the bag?
How can you not like that?
No, that I liked. I liked it in the Champions League. Big moments. Like
How
that.
often did he have to rehearse that before he said it live?
Yeah, but
great
what I'm saying is, you look at that Rome team. There's one Greek player in it. He's a centre back. How have you got that rehearsed for 90?
Well, it just shows how good he is at his job. I've
got three more modern ones from Peter Drury. The 3 Lions were toothless after England's defeat to Croatia in the 2018 World Cup. The Lions were toothless, voiceless, and their dream is in tatters. It's not coming home, Britain. It has just limped away forever.
That hurts.
Thomas Partey and Paul Pogba. Right there, you've got 2 midfielders battling out for glory and stardom. You look at Thomas Partey and you see he's ready to party. But you look at Pogba and it seems he's here to sweep up after the party's over.
I love it.
And the Manchester United's consistency. Man United's one of the most consistent teams. 1 win in August, 1 win in September, 1 win in October, 1 win in November, 1 win in December. It's just like the menstrual cycle. If they don't win in January, they know they're pregnant.
That is cool. And I remember that.
We'll end on an
Was it you that shared the one about Onana? Did he actually say that?
Yeah, what was it? If he was a folder, he still couldn't save a file.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, well, he was lobbed on his debut, wasn't he, from about 40 yards?
Right, Olly and Khan. I don't think you know Chris has done this, but he's done some looking into obscure leagues across the Europe. Is it?
Yeah, well, pretty much.
Khan will love this.
I hope you do, because I mean, we try to come up with something into. I've had a look at 3 situations of recent time. The first one I'm going to take you to is Greenland. What comes into your mind when you think Greenland?
It's like massive country with the tiniest bit of population. It's like, if you look at it, I remember I looked at it in geography. It's massive, and it's like a little dot on the bottom left hand side where it's habitable. That's it.
Is there a lot of snow there?
There can be. Yeah. Yes, I mean there's a lot of water around.
You've seen it on the globe. It's white.
Oh, is there that big white thing at the top? Right?
Despite the fact that they've got a strong league, they have the world's shortest football season. How long do you think it is?
I know the answer.
4 weeks.
I'm going to go 3 months.
It's 1 week because of the climate. 1 week. 1 week. They've got a team called B67 Nuke. They're the strongest team. They've won the title 13 times. Budget is a problem for the country because they're not a member of FIFA. So they get no grants. The reason they're not a member of FIFA is because they have not got 1 grass pitch. They've not got the climate to keep 1 grass outdoor pitch. They haven't got 1 indoor 11-a-side facility in the country. right? Nevertheless, they're a hardy bunch and their league is good. There's 8 teams in the league. They travel to games because planes are so expensive. They have to island hop on boats. Now, they did have tragedy back in 2004. 3 players set sail in a boat and never made it. Never seen again, which is obviously quite sad. But
Not to Olly, it isn't.
But the point being, next time, especially if you're a fan of non-league teams and lower league teams, next time you think your team has got a problem with travel and you're worried about a coach with no toilet on it, feel for the Greenland football team. If they have anyone any good, they have to go to Denmark to develop their game.
Right.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, world's shortest football season. It's like you'd look forward to that, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It's like
The women look forward to it because their husbands.
it's a week, lads.
Yeah.
It's a football week, and that's it. 8 teams.
What do they play on?
Well, they do play on grass, but it's just not FIFA approved grass.
Jackie Baker's on a Sunday.
Exactly that. Yeah, I mean, as I say, they can't become a member of FIFA because one of the FIFA conditions is you have to be able to sustain a grass football pitch. So yeah, I thought the Greenland Football League was a good starting point. Great story from the 3rd division in Latvia last week. The match officials were caught drunk, breathalyzed by the police, and this all came about in the game when the players suddenly became concerned that they were making bizarre decisions. Now, we've all criticised the ref from one point or another, no matter what level you're at. But no, they became so concerned, they phoned the police. The police entered the stadium, breathalyzed the linesman and the referee, and they all failed the test and carted them off, and the game was suspended.
Jesus.
The only thing we've ever seen anything like this before was, I think, 4 years ago, Champions League, and there were some match officials from the Eastern Europe, I don't know which country, and they were caught drinking booze on the flight out to the game. But we've never ever, to my knowledge, had anyone drunk in play, which I just think is fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, and my third and final one, I've got one more. The Gibraltar League. Now, the Gibraltar League, we all like this one. It's the only league in the country. Obviously, Gibraltar's famous for its rock. Founded in 2019, there are 11 teams, and their national cup competition, which qualifies you for Europe, is the Rock Cup. It was won by Bruno's Magpies in 2023. They are a former pub team. They were built from a bar, Bruno's Bar, full of regular drinkers who decided that they were going to form a team. Okay, now, group of mates get together and this team rises up to the Gibraltar League. They're called Bruno's Magpies because the manager, another one of the bunch of drunks that formed them, he's a Newcastle fan, and he said, I'll only coach the team if you put the word magpie in the team. So then became Bruno's Magpies. They then beat in the final Lincoln Red Imps, who were the major player in Gibraltar. And this attracted an English coach, an A-licensed coach, Nathan Rooney, funny enough is his name. I don't think he's related. And but the first manager before that, I say, was a pub regular. And they've got one pitch in Gibraltar. It's the Victoria Stadium where the national team play. So they held their trials when they became league affiliated on a Spanish beach. Right? So we go back to Sunday League here in Thanet, don't we? Never complain about your facilities or Jackie Baker's. I mean, you know, down the beach.
In Dorking, they come from the from like pub league, didn't they?
Brilliant. I think that's brilliant.
They've got a little YouTube channel thing where it documents their games, and their manager is their owner who created the team in, I think it's like 99 or something, and he's managed it all the way through, brought them all the way up. They're playing Conference Prem now. And he's still the owner and he's still the manager.
That's mad.
And we could have a debate on the world's worst football team, but I think I've statistically found them. They play in the 8th tier of the Spanish league. They're called SD Sueca, and if anyone wants to Google them, that's Sueca. They finished the end of last season on -3 points. They've lost 27 games in the season. They only ever won 2. Their goal difference was -657. Their stats show they concede a goal once every 3.6 minutes. They let in an average of 24.7 goals a game, right? They lost 300 games in a row in their 11-year period. Their goal stats, 114 against 4,656.
What's the point?
They've been threatened with expulsion by the Valencian Regional League. They've got nowhere to go. They're on the lowest tier. They can't be put anywhere else, so they've got to keep them in. I looked these up. I couldn't. When I found this stat, I looked these up. Let's just say they're not necessarily athletes, these players, right? Their recruitment policy is inclusive, from the dog and duck to the red lion to the local loony bin, right? Yeah. If you're in, you got a game, you know. The Erling Haaland of the team, that could be me. You know, you don't know, do you? You know, not necessarily an athlete. But then I looked at how they finished. They finished quite strongly in the last 4 games of last season. They won 1-0 against a team called Ontinent 1931. Then they lost 2-0. Then they lost. They won 2-0 against Canals, and then their last 2 games they shipped another 8. They lost 5-0 to Calpe and 3-1 to Denia. So
there's definitely improvements there. Then.
Definitely improvements. Since Chris has looked them up, they've improved.
I mean, I'd love to go to a game and just see what they're like, because I mean, you know, what do you want to have a great day out? You know, you want a good match and guaranteed goals.
Go to a game, mate. You'll be playing for it, mate.
Like the old 3 minute stories of the Football Manager like players, and they go off and watch come from like Brazil or somewhere and watching like Rhyme and Prem or whatever it's called now. Just watch a team that got all the way up from the league. Yeah. It's crazy.
We normally start the podcast with this, but let's quickly end with it. Just the Premier League results. We've touched on a few of them, but we haven't spoke about a few of them. Brentford Bournemouth was 2-2. I just don't know how Brentford didn't win it. Watching it, they were all over them, weren't they? They had their chances.
That and Buemo looks serious player. Serious player.
They need to fill in, don't they, for Tony? And we're never sure if Tony's even going to play for them again, are we?
I don't think he will after his interview.
I think a big club will come in for him. I hope we get him.
Well, he was
saying... You're talking January then, are you?
Yeah.
Did you see the interview where he's saying he loves Liverpool?
Loves Arsenal.
Like, that's the biggest fish.
Putting the feelers out.
If you're like the Brentford owners and things, you're thinking... That's probably the worst interview you can hear.
I mean, when you look at Brentford, though, one thing you'll say about them is they have got goals all over the team.
Yeah.
And Buemo, they've got Wissa, he weighs in with a few, doesn't he? I mean, they're not going to struggle without Tony. I think, on the other hand, Bournemouth struggle this season massively. And we've just sent out Luis Sinisterra to them on loan, and we've got a young player who I can't think of at the moment, but in return for a season. But Sinisterra will be injured 70% of the season because that's what his stats are.
Oh, really?
He's injured now. He can't play. So, you know, lovely. You're on a season-long loan, but you're out. And you know, what do you do?
You're not covering his wages, are
you? I'm not sure what the deal is, so hopefully not. Yeah, so I'll try and get back to it. But I honestly think what Bournemouth did last season to get out of that trouble was excellent. You know, they did what we couldn't do, for example, at Leeds, and they did it. But I do worry for them this season round, I think, to be fair. I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to be challenging Luton for a relegation spot, but they need to be careful that they're not that third team that just drop in.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, this is obviously in no order, but Luton versus West Ham.
Well, I don't think the game was a surprise, was it? I mean, Luton scored in the 92nd minute of that game. West Ham, consistent as ever. You know, Jared Bowen.
Do you think they're already relegated, Luton? I do.
Yeah. Personally, I do. And I feel sorry for them because I think that they've actually tried to recruit sensibly, Luton, and I think that they play a nice way, but they're just not good enough. It's a similar thing to Burnley.
Did you see Luton spend? I think it was 9 million they spent. Yeah. They've not made any money.
They had to spend a lot of money on their stadium to make it Premier League ready.
They had to, haven't they?
Yeah. West Ham fans, did you hear them singing on their way into the stadium? We can see you in the bath.
Yeah, I saw that.
That is quality.
But it's a shame. But then I think that just shows I don't think that you're going to get a lot more fairy tale stories coming into the Premier League. I think you're sort of coming to the end of that era. I think the lower teams getting the value.
But you just want Luton in there, don't you? You need teams like that with a quirky
I think Brighton are the last team to come up and really do well.
But it's the need for top players. They're like Tottenham buying Brennan Johnson. I think they bought him just because he played well in the Premier League last year. Purely that's it.
City versus Fulham. 5-1 City.
That's not a shock.
No, it's not. But I worry for Fulham with them. You know, what happened with the lad? He went to Bayern Munich, Paulinho, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then he flew all the way home again. You know?
Oh, really? Why? Because he weren't done in time?
No, he was there all day. He'd done the medical.
Because he closed at 5, didn't it?
Yeah, I was a bit nervous on that.
I didn't know that. I thought he was gone.
No, he was doing interviews with Bayern TV and everything.
Oh, wow.
But they never got to release them. He did them all to press, but yeah. And Sorry, go on.
As a Liverpool fan, I got worried about the Gravenberch transfer because the news that was coming out was they wanted that. Is it Plenia? They would only sell Gravenberch if they get him, and then Fulham would only sell him if they bring someone in. And I think they were linked with Amrabat, Højbjerg at one point, and then Fulham didn't get anyone, and then German window shut, and it was just silence for a few hours. I thought Liverpool ballsed it again, and they come out and luckily said they was going to sell him no matter what.
What about the Akanji goal that should have been disallowed with the offside? What's your opinion on that? Where he was clearly interfering with play.
Offside.
Clearly.
Yeah, I think
How has that not been overturned? Do you think VAR Did you think they favourite clubs? I do.
I think VAR.
It does seem that way.
Absolute shambles, to be honest with
But
you.
it does seem like Man City get all the decisions, all of them.
Of course they do.
They've allowed
They're favourite, isn't they?
They've allowed that on the basis they're saying he's not interfered with the goalkeeper's line of sight or anything like
No,
that.
which he wasn't.
No, right. But they've allowed it on the basis he's not interfered with anything connected with the shot. But then they couldn't. And they've allowed it on the basis it hasn't touched.
But have you
him.
heard what Mike Dean said on Gillette Soccer Saturday or whatever he was on? He said he did interfere with play because the keeper doesn't decide to dive until it's gone through his legs.
Yeah.
Where normally he would have dived earlier. So he has interfered with play.
If you're in the keeper's line of sight for anything, you're
But
interfering.
he wasn't.
Aren't you?
Yeah.
He wasn't in the line of sight.
Well, he must have been. If the ball's gone through his legs to prompt the keeper to
The argument with the goalkeeper is, as a goalkeeper, you're not aware of where your defensive line is, who's onside, who's offside. He's just watching the ball.
Yeah.
So if he's seeing the Kanji in front of him, he's not going to commit until the ball's gone past him. Because
Exactly.
if he dives right and he takes a flick and takes it left, he's missed the ball.
He wasn't in his line of sight. He wasn't.
But you don't.
But
know
he
if he's
interfered with
offside.
play.
If
But
you
he
don't
did
know he's
interfere with play.
offside or not, the keeper's never going to commit till he knows for sure he's going to have to change or make a save. Even Haaland come out after the game said it was offside. So that probably hurt more. Not that it changed much of the game.
was gonna say,
They got absolutely
No, of course. Brighton versus Newcastle. Brighton 3-1. I think, is that a shock result?
Yeah, I think so.
No.
I don't think so.
It's not. That didn't shock you at all.
Well, going back onto last year, I'm saying about Newcastle all the way through. It's the same with Arsenal. I said they just got on a run where every team around them drop points. And then once a team gets on a run, I remember Klopp said it before, once you're on that run, you never want your games to end. You just want to keep going and going and going. And you're watching teams, once you see the teams dropping points around you, that's it. You're never going to really drop out of that form. And I think they've just hit standards so high, lucky with injuries, not getting many, keeping the same consistent side that I think they just got lucky last year. Not in a bad, I still think they're top 6 side and they still get anywhere.
So you see that result and think, oh yeah, that's expected. 3-1 Brighton.
Not 3-1, but 2. But then it's not a lot of goals in it. But then you look at the Brighton side. You look how Brighton started this year. Look how Brighton ended
Ferguson
last
with the
year.
hat trick.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, from my point of view, I wouldn't have said that would have been the result I would have looked at. But seeing the game, watched the whole thing.
Ferguson was on fire.
Brighton were just at it. They wanted every ball more than Newcastle. Newcastle were lacklustre. They couldn't string passes
coming off a bad
together.
loss as well, Brighton.
Yeah, Brighton were just ready for that game.
Well, they had to be after they got smashed at home to West Ham last week.
Yeah.
They had to up it this week, and they did.
But Newcastle have been used to winning a bit.
But then I read about Newcastle. It was saying that Joe Linton's been injured last few weeks and he's not trained. He's just playing games at the minute, not dropping him.
That's never good.
Bruno's not really in the form he was. Someone said that Tonali's a bit.
Well,
he's changed the whole. Tonali's changed
like
the whole dynamic of that midfield. And then when you actually,
and you're saying about the depth of the squad, and I think it was relevant that they've got Europe to contend with.
Yeah,
and that's going to harm them. Well, even if they're firing, that's going to harm them.
I think that's the main thing. If you're a Tottenham, Liverpool, Arsenal fan at the minute, you're probably loving the fact that Chelsea, Newcastle, United haven't hit form early because it's just giving you a chance to get that head start.
Sheffield United versus Everton 2-2.
As I said earlier on, I think Everton, once they scored the goal, they got a bit of confidence in that game, and it was probably the best performance of the season.
Yeah.
The worrying thing for me is that Everton just let Sheffield United back in the game so easy, and we're not talking about a Liverpool, at Arsenal, or Chelsea. We're talking about Sheffield United. Again, though, their new signing Archer, he hit the ground running.
He looks a good player, doesn't he?
He fitted straight in, and with McBurney, the link-up play they've got, that looked good for them. I mean, I didn't know which way it was going to go at the time. Bramall Lane before the game, I would have gone a Sheffield United win actually because Everton was so poor.
It's bad you this early in your season. You're probably saying that's a good point for both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Palace versus Wolves. Palace look very good.
I've got a bit on this actually. I took a section from both sets of supporters and what they were saying after the game, and they're saying that a scruffy win. Palace was saying a scruffy win,
good,
but comfortable in the end, which it doesn't really work. But
no.
they were pointed to Lerma and Decore, and they said that they've settled in really well, particularly post Zaha. Palace dominated and thoroughly deserved the win. Edouard, of course, the scoring. Goals and.
Well, I was going to say, you normally look at Palace and you think, oh, there'll be a team that's down there, but you look at their sides. At the minute, they've got Guehi in the back. He's in the England squad. Eze's in the England squad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that Elise looks good.
Yeah,
good recruitment on the
looks
youngsters.
good.
Yeah. They've got Rob Holding to come in the defence, and I'm sure he starts once he's
I'd say so.
I think, but then you look at the price I paid for Holding, bargain really.
Yeah.
Premier League.
We paid $2 million for him from Bolton.
But Premier League experience.
Because we bought him at the same time as City bought John Stones for 50 odd million. And do you remember Arsene Wenger said, "Oh, I'm sorry, he didn't cost 50 million," basically comparing them both. Yeah, that didn't go down well, did it? Didn't work out, yeah.
50 million on Stones there, didn't you, hindsight?
Yeah.
Liverpool versus Villa. You're a Liverpool fan, talk us through it.
Well, it's good start.
Best you've looked all season.
Best we've looked. The midfield looks like it's settling quite well. Still question marks about defensive midfielder, but I'm quite surprised with how well McAllister and Szoboszlai are actually playing. Like, very good technically, but they're also workhorses.
His goals quality, right?
Yeah, you don't get a lot of players with technique like that. Love the old daisy cutter style finish, just sits low. But I think Liverpool could mount a challenge, but it's just depth in the team really. Us defence is all over the shop. I'd say when you look at any team in the league, we've probably got the best front line in terms of depth. You think one goes out, you've got Jota, Gakpo both on the bench on Sunday.
I love that Darwin Núñez. I think he's fantastic.
Well,
both his goals were like identical, weren't they?
Yeah, I said it last season. I said last year he was the biggest nearly merchant in the league. Like in the right place and making the right runs.
Couldn't finish.
Even having the chances, but they just weren't going in. And I think this year could be the year he gets 20 plus. I think Neville said it the other week. He said he's the one player, like if you're a defender, you're probably bricking it. Playing against it, like Gakpo and Jota, very good players, but Núñez is a different dynamic. He's quick, he's big, good in the air.
There was a comparison to Haaland, wasn't it, when they both come over at the same time? And I wouldn't compare him to Haaland, but it's slowly getting...
physique, with his being leggy, he's quick. He's a bit like the Zlatan. He's a bit, he's got that physique, isn't he?
Same haircut as well.
Yeah.
But I think, again, it's one of them, I think Liverpool needed the results early. The Newcastle game was, I think, a massive one last week. Coming into Villa as well, and then getting that result, playing like we did, I think Trent didn't look too bad defensively because we were so aggressive, keeping the ball, just going forward relentlessly. Saved us really because Gomez and Matip any time they've played last few years been a shambles. So
happy, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. I wouldn't have thought we'd have been third. I was thinking might actually struggle at the start with the run we had, but it's been good so far. Long may it continue.
And then
not for 1 minute suggesting that Aston Villa should have got anything out of the game, but I've looked at them and obviously they're 2 wins, 2 defeats, no draws. They're starting to worry me a little bit, Aston Villa, underachieving with the players they got there.
The money they spent as well.
I'm not saying I worry for them. Who can worry with 4 or 5 games in? But I'd be concerned that they didn't create any more than they did in the game. They didn't look
Liverpool
like they were
very
excellent.
good, though.
I've got no issue with that
But
at all.
again, if you're a Villa forward and you're looking at that back line, you think Robertson has been questionable last year. Trent, anything aimed at Trent. Like games like that to that day suited Trent. When we was dominating, when we won the Champions League, Premier League, we was always on the front foot. So no one tested him.
Yeah.
Now the team's going at him, and then Gomez come in the team, and Gomez has been questionable every time he's played. I think Klopp said after the Newcastle game, Matip come off after 7 minutes because he was tired. So that shows you that shows you the back line Liverpool had in that game, and you think if you can't get at that, then you're a bit.
Yeah.
All the possession and all the dominant Liverpool can have, you should be able to put one ball in and you should have that defence all over the place.
I'd like to see the stats for that with the Villa, how many shots and goals they had, etc. Because I don't remember seeing much on the highlight reel of Villa.
I think they had a couple crosses in. From
they got
scrambles in the box sort of thing. Yeah,
Alisson made one save, but it's typical Alisson really at the minute.
Yeah. If we move on to Arsenal versus United, obviously a great game for me. I was going absolutely mental in here. I did go into that game expecting to win. Reason is we are, especially because we're at home, every time we play we do dominate. I mean, the possession doesn't show it really, but I just feel every game we look quite comfortable. So we are going into games quite confident now. United had injuries. Luke Shaw was injured. Varane was injured. They've not been on it, have they? United have looked very poor. The worst they've looked for a while, actually. The ending to the game was absolutely amazing. I mean, it was a good game anyway, I thought. As a neutral, I thought if you watched that, you probably enjoyed it. But as an Arsenal fan, I enjoyed it. United looked okay. We looked really good.
I think the Garnacho disallowed goal was the actual turning point in the game as a whole. I was watching it with one of my friends, and he was like, it could go either way. It was just end to end the last 10.
Well, I will say one thing, and this is God's honest truth. As soon as that ball was played, I thought offside. I know it was very tight, but I thought it was offside. But then when he started celebrating and everything, I thought, maybe it's not.
See, the one thing I see one of the European leagues have done it before. Because of how tight the offside's getting, you're never going to get the frames bang on. They done it, so they made the line slightly thicker, and it's like the defensive line, and they said if any point them two overlap slightly, it goes the forwards way.
Yeah.
And I've always thought when I see that online and I looked about it, I thought that's probably the fairest way to do VAR because again you're still looking at the offside. You looked at it, tight.
It was offside though.
But you still like it's still that element of doubt because when you're talking like exact precise, you're never going to get that frame to the point the ball's just been touched. Like you see it and his foot's hit the ball. I'm not saying that it made a difference but you're still talking about fine margins. And when when you're bringing VAR in to be absolutely perfect, you've just got to have a way to like eliminate any form of doubt. And I think doing something like that would actually make it a lot better. But like I said, that suited you.
What about the Havertz penalty? For me, it's a penalty all day. Even now, I look at it, I watch it. There's contact. He didn't mean the contact, but there's contact. It's knocked him off his stride.
He was going through.
It's a penalty.
Yeah, I think it was a penalty.
I just don't know how that's been overturned. But as soon as the referee got asked to go over to the the screen, he ran past Arteta, and Arteta straight away went no penalty because he knows as soon as you're asked to go over there, you're going back on your decision. They never ever go, no, I'm sticking with my decision. And it's a shame really because it was a penalty. Do you think it was?
Yeah, I thought.
Do you?
Yeah. Do you think Ten Hag lost his head a bit, or do you think there was a bit in the Hoyland,
I think Ten Hag is a tip
shove in the back in the box?
That was not a penalty. I just think Ten Hag he's taken in the United way, and they just got excuses after excuses. Just take the loss. We were better than them over 90 minutes.
I do genuinely believe if Garnacho didn't have that goal disallowed, I think he'd have gone through 1-0. I thought that turning point, when that got disallowed and it was end to end, I think that gave you like that belief that
was game over. As soon as he scored that goal that was offside, it's game over. You think that's it.
I thought if that never happened, it'd have been 1-0. But I think that gave Arsenal
that made
little
it 2-1.
bit. Yeah, and I think it gave you that little bit when it got disallowed to go. I think actually we can get something here and.
They weren't causing us any problems. Although saying that, when they brought their new striker on, he looks good. I will say that. But anyway, Declan Rice scoring in the 97th, wasn't it? Which we all thought was probably the winner. You did
it's not a game you want to leave early at, is it? To go and get your train home.
Which they did.
That goal in itself is probably worth over 100 million to Arsenal.
Exactly. There you go. Bosh, 100 million.
But what do you think of United? Evans and Maguire ending partnership. That's not a good look if you're a club that size. You know?
And they had a partnership for Leicester in 2016, weren't it? Or 2015.
Wow, didn't know that. Did not know that.
Yes.
But massive result for us. Great result. I didn't realise how bad United's away record was against the top six. They've played 8, lost 7, drawn 1. I think they haven't won one.
I think when you look at the top 8 sides, I think probably be between Ten Hag and Poch to go first. I think both will go this year. It's just a matter of who.
Really?
I think Poch will stay, but I think United's problem is going back right to the start of the podcast where you spoke about recruitment. A massive problem Chelsea had, and it's still affecting us now, is we allowed managers to sign their players. And our team, before Bowley took over, had players that played under about, 5 or 6 different managers, 5 or 6 different types of player. And that's what United's problem
just
is.
Before we go on to something different, going back to the Arsenal game, because otherwise I'll forget. Everyone's going on about the goals for Rice goal, Gabriel Jesus goal. I mentioned it on my Facebook. That movement from Gabriel to make Garnacho offside is so underrated. Did you see it?
I didn't know.
So Gabriel was the last man. Gabriel was the last man, keeping everyone online. He saw Garnacho running through, and Gabriel went like that, and that made him offside by that much.
Yeah.
People don't appreciate that. You look back, that won us the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because if there's not VAR, it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
one of them fine margins.
Unbelievable IQ.
How much would you have ripped him if he done that and he played him on side?
I wouldn't have.
Football's margins and
no. At least he tried to do something about it. He was going through because he weren't exactly near him, was he? If he would have done that and he went through and scored, it is what it is. But unbelievable. But
I think they're bang in trouble. I think with how well West Ham started the season, Brighton are starting the season, I think it's all about hitting the ground running early. And especially if you start taking points with them teams, I think they're going to be in not real trouble, I think they could be out of Europe. And a team like United, you're already seeing it now, like they had to loan Amrabat loan Reguilon because they haven't got the money to spend.
There's problems all over now. And the fans want the Glazers out, and now they've just come out and said they're going to sell it now.
Exactly.
That's not a popular decision.
Chelsea and United, if they don't get Europe, the restraints on their signings is going to
Chelsea more than anyone have to make Europe really. Champions League.
Why?
Money.
You'll be banging trouble if you don't.
Why?
I think you'll get a transfer ban because of it. And because of FFP will then get involved if you don't get Champions League, you get another transfer ban. And I think that is one of the reasons why you've bought all these players. Get them in now because we're going to get a transfer ban.
Yeah, maybe. One of my Chelsea mates, I said,
get ready for the transfer ban.
They're going to hit us with a points deduction and a massive fine.
Which it don't matter because they've got a whole new squad.
Yeah, maybe. And it's a young squad. So that squad's going to develop over the years if we get a transfer ban. But let's not forget, when Chelsea was sold, all of our debts were wiped off by Abramovich. And we've basically sold our whole team. So even though we spent $1 billion, that's not our net spend.
As bad as it sounds, though, like your club as a whole, I think it's regressed since Abramovich's gone.
Absolutely.
Still early days.
Absolutely. But I think that the trajectory of where it could go is potentially further than where Abramovich was.
You need a strong manager that's just going to put an end to no, I don't want that. I want to
look at the consistent dominance City have had in recent years. Chelsea have never had that yet. We've won 2 Champions Leagues, but then the following season we've crumbled.
But you've done it in a way where there's no patience. Like you look at Arsenal, you said Arteta slowly sold the players, brought in what he wanted. Klopp done the same at Liverpool, Pep at City. You look at the managers that have been there for a while. They're building their own team, their own way,
they've proven that
with
time
their own
pays
style
off,
of players. Whereas you've just gone with $1 billion in a year and just gone, right, Potter, you have a go. Nah, you ain't good enough. Go on, Potter, you have a go. And then
we didn't want to get rid of Potter. It's just because we did so badly we had to. We gave him loads of time.
I think that's another case of, I said earlier that managers, when they take over a team, like to get rid of all the players that they haven't bought. It's the case of Todd Bowley has come in and gone, this isn't the manager I chose. Get him out. And I want my own manager.
I think as well, fans play a massive part and mentality of a fan base at a club. Because I said it before. I said Arteta last year. I said that year was the year. If he didn't perform, he was out. But you had that. No disrespect to Arsenal fans as a whole, but you was we're top 4 side. We're happy with top 4. Now you've had that season last year. It's now we want to chase.
Yeah.
It's like United. You looked at Van Gaal, didn't he finish second? I'm pretty sure one season. Mourinho finished second one season. They all ended up getting sacked.
Mourinho said that was one of his best ever achievements.
Yeah, and they all got sacked. They all got the sack. And now it's like you've got to get the mentality of the fan base to just accept that you're a club.
I think social media plays a massive part.
Yeah, but I think once you, like Arsenal, once you accepted after Wenger, you had your little bit. You sort of accepted you as that club where you weren't top 4. Liverpool had it for just before Klopp. We had Rodgers come in, but then there was Hodgson and we was at shambles. And it's like, you're just happy with top 6 at one point.
Yeah.
You'd say top 4's the goal, but you'd just be happy getting Europe. And then it's like, you've just got to get that mentality back. And once you have that mentality, I think like the whole level of everything they do just goes up. But United at the minute, you've just got to accept your top 8, be happy, and then just have patience to build, because that's when the team seem to give their managers time, when they've just gone, actually, we're not a team that's good enough. We'll leave him there. Slow progress, like Arteta did with you. I think you had a couple of eighth places with him.
Yeah.
And then you've gone, and he's had the time and he's built it now. So like now, it's the pressure's on him this year, next year to be able to do that. But I think you're one of the teams where you've got to get in a position where your fans have just got to be happy with you being just out of Europe a couple seasons.
Oh, I think that is the case. I'd be happy if we got Europe, and I think top 4. Taking it all into account at the moment, I think it's unachievable for where we are right now. But next year, is it unachievable with a squad that's a year in the club?
But I don't think so. I said the same thing with Newcastle. Does Newcastle overachieving? So I'd say they overachieved. I'd say top 6 would have been good for them last year. Happy. Are they expected to get Champions League every year? What happens now if Eddie Howe goes and finishes 7th? Do you still sit there and go, we'll give him time, or do you reckon the owners want more? Because they've got the Champions League money, they're going to be able to spend more.
They haven't got the squad for a Champions League now.
No.
Judging by how they've spent their money on their squad, I would say they would give Eddie Howe time, because they haven't just went. They've made some big signings, but they haven't just went and brought all the best foreign players.
That goes back to identifying the player, taking it to the manager. I think if you've seen the Newcastle documentary on Amazon, they said Anthony Gordon from Everton. Howe was like, I love the player, and go out get the player, but they wait to get him at the right price. And it's just that sort of recruitment
makes difference.
That sort of recruitment in the Premier League at the minute is what makes a difference to these sides. Like Brighton being so high, they're just, when you look at their players, they're not getting something wrong. It's home, like Slade, he's gone now.
Ferguson.
It's just hit after hit after hit, and they can develop them because it's not taking anything away from De Zerbi, but they're doing it under Potter. De Zerbi's come in and doing it under him. Yeah. The manager makes a big deal, but what goes on behind the scenes, is that what's actually carrying the club that far?
This is the thing, and I think it's the same case for Arsenal, the same case for City, Liverpool, and that's what Chelsea are trying to achieve. They want to set a philosophy at the club, so they will recruit a manager that fits their philosophy. They won't recruit a manager and then change everything for that manager.
That's where I think you're going a bit wrong. I think you need a manager coming with a philosophy, and then you go and.
No, you can't adapt a whole club's philosophy around a manager.
That's what United have done, essentially.
When you look at the slow burner of what Arsenal have done, Arteta was that style of manager. You can't just change.
No. With Arsenal, we got people like Edu in. We got rid of a lot of backroom staff, got a whole new backroom staff, and then, what manager would suit us best? We could have had other managers, but we probably thought Arteta, young, bit of a yes man probably, because it's his first new role. He's not going to come in all poultry, is he?
We defend.
Like Mourinho, I want him. I think Arteta was the perfect suit for them, because they want their own way. And I think, who can we get in? He's never managed before. He can't tell us what to do. And it's worked for both parties. It's worked for Arteta and it's worked for the club.
I can imagine Potter's kicking himself leaving Brighton.
Well, it is what it is.
Brighton are better without Potter.
But then you look, if he stayed like De Zerbi, I'd say the only 2 jobs De Zerbi would get in the next few years, if he keeps Brighton doing the way they're doing, would be Liverpool or the City job.
Does he need to go anywhere?
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't pay off, does it? It just doesn't pay off, does it? Right, we're going to have to wrap this up, because this has been going on. We'll have you back on, Chris, and we'll talk about Leeds a bit more. Sorry.
To be fair, we're so early in the Championship. There's not a lot to be talking about really at the moment. We can't really. No one's really found their feet. Preston, obviously, we said started well, but in terms of Championship, we need to just see where it's going with the transfers coming, etc. Yeah. So, just one thing quickly about City. One of the big things, just a final one from me, that De Bruyne is missing now.
Yeah,
he created 11 of Haaland's goals last season, but Foden, they reckon it will give him more room to flourish now.
I think the one player that seems to be looking really good is Alvarez. They managed to get Haaland and Alvarez in the same team. He's really complementary. It's like he sort of reminded me of Gav Jesus before, but
him and Haaland shouldn't be able to play together, but they can. When you look at them two, you think, you can't play both at the same time, but they are, and it's working.
The maddest thing I see about Haaland, I think he played 90 minutes last season. Twice he played 90 minutes.
Is that it?
Wow.
Yes, because Guardiola, I remember Guardiola did an interview and he said Haaland's body style, build is made for injuries, so he just takes him off 60, 70 minutes. You watch the games, once the game starts going to bed, comes off the
Haaland's
pitch
off. Yeah,
straight
you're
off.
right. I have noticed that.
And that's why I think that's why he's played the amount of games he played. Because when he was at Dortmund, he got a lot of injuries because they had to rely on him. Where City are just winning the game, protecting him.
Yeah,
and that's
the way to do it. It's good man management.
I think that's how they won last year. I think they kept Haaland going for the
and
whole
when it
season.
comes to, I said this a few weeks ago, when it comes to international break, Haaland was injured.
Yeah.
Where Saka wasn't. Saka burnt out.
Yeah.
Haaland didn't because he didn't go international break, and who won the league?
Liverpool done
Saka
it.
was
Dutch
burnt
striker
out.
have said, as we said earlier,
Well,
he could have just gone injured.
Yeah,
It reminds me
Haaland won.
Liverpool done it the other year with Trent. There was like a couple of international breaks, and they just went, he's injured. But it'd be play the last game for the internationals, playing the first game after, but he's injured. But
short little strike.
I know we're 4 games in, but do we look beyond City for the title? I know Arsenal fan here, but
I think City win the league.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that it just depends on what other teams do. If you're an Arsenal,
and you've just reminded me of something, and I did want to get this in actually. So Jamie Carragher has said about Arsenal panicking.
Yeah.
Mikel Arteta's side, this is his quote. Mikel Arteta's side approach to the opening fixtures has been more reminiscent of the title running, where every mistake is amplified and dropped points are considered catastrophic to hopes of winning the championship. Now, he's obviously talking about the Fulham game because we drew 1-1. Was it 1-1? I think it was 1-1, wasn't it? Drew 1-1 with Fulham at home, and Arsenal fans had a meltdown. Now, I can see what he's saying. It may be a bit of an overreaction, but to me, Arteta's probably thinking we lost by fine margins last year. If we do lose the league by 2 points, you do look at them games, home to Fulham, you should be winning them. So I think there's every right to panic, even how early it is.
I think with Arteta, I think it's just the way he comes across in general in his interviews and on the sideline. It's like everything he takes is like be all end all. Like every game is
Is Klopp not like that?
Yeah, some
Is
games.
Pep not like that?
Some games,
They're not as bad as Arteta. I mean, he doesn't have a
I don't know
technical
about
area. He
Klopp.
goes flying around, doesn't he? I mean, as I said at the beginning, he does more miles on the
But
game than
then
an opposition player.
I mean, as a whole, over the last few years, like Arsenal as a team, you can, like when you watch the seasons play out, you can just see it always feels like there's an element of panic in your side. I think the year you just missed out on Europe to Tottenham, who were bottling it massively, but you could just sort of see them games coming in. There was like a massive air of panic in your team, and it's like, I don't know how to explain it because you shouldn't be bottling games like that or things like that. But same with the end of last season, you started to see that air of panic from the team, the manager, and it was like I feel like I don't know whether it is Arteta or it's just the team's mental. Like there just always feels like when it gets to like an important part of the season, it's like
I would say last season we did bottle it. There's no question, but it was more down. I will say it's squad depth, and I've said over and over again. Right, Saka. I said about the international break. Forget that. Right, Saka played 8,000 and something minutes last season. Right. Now you pick that position in the Man City squad. Yeah. They've got 3 players. They all played 2,000 minutes.
Yeah. Nice.
Saka played 8,000 on his own.
Yeah.
They all individually played 2,000, and it showed towards the end of the season. Saka, I was going up to every game. You was watching him, and you just got to think, you've got to drop him. He is knackered.
I still think you're going to have the same issue this
year. We had the same 11 every week. Like as an Arsenal fan, last season you could predict the starting 11. It was the same 11 every game.
You got quite lucky in terms of injuries as well. I mean, you had
Saliba,
was a bad one, Saliba towards the end, but as a whole,
generally we were quite lucky.
Because it's like now I'm not completely aware of what players you've got, but ones if Martinelli and Saka get injured, have you got the width out wide? Because that's where you're most dangerous.
Trossard, that's it really.
And I think if you get an injury to Saka or Martinelli, I think that's do or die for you because you're such an explosive side from the wide areas that I think if you get
for
an
that
injury,
reason, I just think no one can panic when the table's as it is, 12, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. You know, Tottenham could suffer, and you don't wish an injury on any player, but Tottenham could lose someone like Son and Maddison in a freak injury. Where would they be then? Would their creativity be better? You can't say anyone's panicking now. You could have someone not hit form, anything.
The problem is you look at all the sides past Man City and every team could do with 1 or 2 more players, except Man City who've got 22. And and check that.
Well, no, I mean, the January transfer window will be interesting because there'll be no players left to buy because Forest and Chelsea have got them all.
I think Chelsea will probably only spend about 500 million in January.
Yeah, probably.
But then going on to it, I just see, just before I come to the rumour, that Al Ittihad are looking at 215 million.
215, yeah, I saw that.
And
you wouldn't reject that. He's 31 years old. Take the money.
But I think this year, if we had 2 more players, we can mount a push. But I think the backlash if they sold him on the back of that, we heavily reliant on him this year.
Does he go for you, Salah?
No, I think he stays. I think you go through to next year and happily take 50 to 100 million. I think 100 million.
But the owners won't.
But
did you see what Paul Merson said when they come in 150 million for Saka? They're waiting on for 200. No, for Salah,
yeah.
And then he said, why don't Liverpool just wait for him to come in for 200 million, take it, and then buy Saka for 150?
I saw that.
What, is he still drinking?
It's mad that it never happened.
But
I just don't think...
Although if that happens, you will never see me again.
I think as a club, what's more valuable, getting Champions League, mounting that title challenge for an extra 100 million?
Yeah.
You probably earn that in Champions League.
You're saying title challenge this year? Mate, possibly.
Possibly. If
you're far off.
You could sign a £100 million flop who can't adapt to the Premier League.
You're not
if we get to January and we could sign a defender, a midfielder, and maybe Canate and Van Dijk.
You think you'll push for the league?
I think we could push for the league. I think if we absolutely throw the Europa League, which is a gamble because you can get Champions League out of that. I think you could. You look at the teams.
There's only 2 teams in it for me this year. It's Arsenal, City, and I don't think we're anywhere near City.
I think it's just.
The big thing with Salah though, he doesn't necessarily want to go, does he?
No.
He's not. The money to him isn't important. He hasn't sort of.
Do you agree with what I said? Like the 2 top teams are Arsenal, and City, and we're nowhere near
City. But then you put us next to you. If we put Liverpool next to Arsenal, where would you say
we're just above you?
Stronger.
Our starting 11 is much stronger than your starting 11.
And the thing that Liverpool have been so good at over the last few years is just getting on a run. Once we get on a run,
pick your combined 11, Arsenal, Liverpool now. Who having in goal? Alisson in goal, definitely.
Alisson in goal. I'd still take Trent at right back.
What?
Just for what he gives go forwards.
But he's a defender.
Doesn't matter.
All right. Okay.
Doesn't matter. He's won the league and Champions League.
I'd have Ben White, but go on.
Van Dijk, you'd still take him.
But over Saliba and Gabriel at the moment?
I'd take Saliba.
You'd pick Van Dijk over Gabriel at the moment, not 3 years ago.
Left back, probably Robertson.
Yeah.
Midfield, Declan Rice, 100%.
Yeah.
Probably put Szoboszlai in there. From the start of the season, he's looking really good. Can't fault Odegaard, to be fair.
Slash your midfield 3.
Yeah.
Front 3.
This is hard.
You'd have Saka, Salah.
You'd
have them both.
Yeah, but
Saka and Salah, and then you'd have probably Nunes.
I'd probably take Nunes. Just what he is.
So how many Arsenal players are in that?
Saliba, Odegaard, Rice, Saka, 4.
The rest of Liverpool.
The thing is, everyone says it, but Liverpool get around, and when you actually look at their team, and you think, actually, it's not. They're not world superstars. Even Salah, he is, but no one actually you never see people go, fuck, he's brilliant.
Yeah.
Like Saka, you look at last year, Saka was phenomenal, and Salah was never getting applauded. He outscored him. He's got more assists than him.
Because he's English, though.
Yeah,
Saka's English.
Yeah,
that's why.
That's massively why. But I just think a lot of the time Liverpool they buy players, but they're never massive. Like you think you signed Declan Rice and great player.
That's probably our biggest, apart from Ozil, that's probably our biggest signing.
We just have that habit of going on a run. You think when we won the league, Henderson, Wijnaldum and Fabinho as a midfield 3. What 3 get into that Arsenal team now?
Yeah.
Or that City team? You think the only thing Liverpool had over City was Salah, Mane, Firmino. And even then, you're still looking at City's were still nearly or just as good.
Yeah.
It's just I think Klopp just seems to always just get that extra.
He makes stars, he doesn't buy stars. Yeah, that's the saying, isn't it?
But he just gets that little bit extra. I think he
should work at Halifax.
You looked at the form guide, like if you go back onto last season, Liverpool were the most informed team in the Premier League. and we didn't finish in the Champions League. That's how bad we was at the start. So if we start well, we always have a habit of ending a season well. It's just getting this first bit out of the way, and we've started all right. So, but injuries, 2 injuries, and we're down and out.
Yeah.
Bit like Arsenal, bit like Spurs, anyone. It's
Newcastle, yeah. Okay, right, we're going to have to end it there, otherwise we could go on for ages, couldn't we? Thanks for coming on, Chris.
Cheers.
Thanks for coming on,
Josh.
Ollie. That was a great episode.
It was good.